as all our drivers look to build up their points and indeed try to make sure those championship campaigns are well on the ultimate high and underway. But as we get ready to go racing today, we'll take you through the schedule in due course. We'll welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, only available on the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. And if you go to youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing or UKSR, you can tune in there. And if you're not subscribed to the channel right now, we definitely recommend you make sure you do so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest racing action in terms of live broadcasts and the highlight reels that follow after here at UK Sim Racing. In the quarantine booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain and Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we're bringing all your racing action tonight, and indeed for the entirety of the season. Indeed, what a season it has been thus far, and we've still got plenty to go. And let's give you a recap of that calendar and what still lies in wait. And as we can see, we started off all the way back on the 29th of June. Would you believe it? It's already been over a month since we started off Season 7, and we're not through it yet, as in rounds 1 and 2 we kicked off at the roller coaster ride of road racing in the United States of America, and that was Road Atlanta. And one open pair of races we did have, Olympus eSports really announcing themselves on the stage in Season 7, making their debut, and it was Thomas Cope who really led the way ahead of teammate Patrick Thompson as the drivers made the way on around. It was fast and furious racing, but really Olympus eSports emerging on the map. In round number 3, Olympus eSports continued the trend at the circuit despite Frankenstein's. But in the silver class, it was home hero Jeremy Debova in the silver class who absolutely shone high and bright at his home circuit, taking the win on the 6th of July in our first endurance race round of the season. In rounds 4 and 5, we made our way back to the United States of America for the one and only Watkins Glen International in the state of New York, with the fast sweeping corners and one of the highest average lap speeds that we'll see all season there. Well, we got to see plenty of battling action, also a few nasty incidents in the run up through the first couple of corners, but nothing could take away from the fact, well, where many fell, others rose to the occasion. And indeed, it was once again Olympus eSport where they would run away with things at the front of the field, but also got to see in the silver class FR20 Sim Racing starting to emerge in terms of pace. Then we took our mid-season break, our break week, and returned for round 6 and 7 last time out. That was back on the 27th of July, so a week ago, and we continued to stay in the United States of America, but made our way to the state of Virginia for the Virginia International Raceway. And well, it needs no introduction, that circuit. We gave it one last week regardless, and what a pair of rounds we had there in the fact from the fast flying corners and the highly technical sequences of corners there in Virginia. We got to see plenty of battle in action, and it really was a day whereby the absence of Thomas Cope in the gold class due to holiday, and he's back in full fighting fit action this week. We can promise you that he's on the grid. Well, we got to see others rise, and Dan Sedgey in the Olympus eSports Titan machine really looking to close the gap. But we also saw Philip Hammer pick up his first win of the season, the defending gold champion, double gold champion, 2-time champion, looking to try and make it 3 in a row, and perhaps the momentum may now be sitting with the defending champion. But today is the 3rd of August, and therefore it's round at number 8 at the Circuito de Jerez, and here in Spain we'll be seeing our second endurance race round of the season. And in a week's time we'll make our way back to the United States of America for the 4th and final time this season for the one and only Road America circuit. And then the picturesque Elkhart Lake countryside, we're going to be seeing our drivers take on the Wisconsin State circuit like no other
for the double header rounds 9 and 10. Well, then they make their way further north in the North American continent to Canada for the circuit Charles Villeneuve in rounds 11 and 12. That'll be on the 17th of August, and then the Highbury Street circuit, indeed with the fact it's a road racing circuit with the walls being so close and limited runoff area, it is sometimes regarded as a street circuit as it is within the city limits of Montreal, albeit in one of the national parks located there. We'll get to see our drivers scrap it out in what is expected to be a fast and furious pair of rounds of racing action. Indeed, there could be quite a few incidents, and also many drivers making contact with the War Champions. And in the penultimate pair of rounds, it's rounds 13 and 14 at the Silverstone Legacy circuit. We take a trip back in time in the United Kingdom back to 2008 in the original Silverstone layout before it was remodified into today's safer but still no less brilliant layout. We'll see our drivers there taking the fast layout of Silverstone on the 24th of August, and then we bring it all to a close around 15 to 15 in Japan at the Suzuka International Racing Course. The Grand Prix layout will be playing host to our drivers in the 3rd and final endurance race round of the season. We bring the curtain down on the 31st of August. Indeed, save the date there. Suzuka at the very end of the calendar. When see one thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to name a circuit that is associated with late championship drama, it is Suzuka. But more on that close to the time. But giving you an update on our championship standings after 7 rounds of racing action. We started with the Gold Drivers' Championship, and here we can see Thomas Cope leads the way for Olympus eSports Vanguard at 104 points, 30 clear of Dan Sedgey for the sister team Olympus eSports Titan. And keep in mind that Cope's lead has been diminished somewhat, given the fact he was not able to race last time out, but still there is a drop week in effect, and therefore Cope has been forced to take his drop week, and that 30-point advantage now really is the advantage he has over the field for the remainder of the season. And he'll look to try and maintain it, if not extend it.
He's always he's on helium.
essentially hot on his heels, and also Philip
He
Hammer
needs
only a
something.
further 5 points behind. Well, the third place Team Germany driver right now very eager to try and make a dent into the P2 chase and then make his way in the Hunter Cope all the way to the lead. But then
There's
we do
not
have
much I
Igor
can do about
Patrick
it.
Thompson, only a further 2 points behind, picking up a couple of minus
remember
points
from
for an
last time
instant
what it
last
was.
time out of Virginia International Raceway, and therefore losing some key points and dropping out of P3 after all was said and done. With Corey Lazarus now into P5 of Blackout Motorsport, and it definitely looks so that New Zealander could
is it
try and
that?
find a way to break into the top 4, but also having to steer clear of the rest of the chasing field.
Oh, but
That's
problem
led by
was
Igor
that.
Kozin,
That's
P6 for FTR
Happy it's not
eSports
my
with
problem.
40 points right now. Continue to stay one step ahead of Paul Busby for Effect Simulations, with Samuel K. Sprout, Simon B. Bamba and Khalid Ramadan completing your top 10. And keep your eyes on the Somsport driver in P10. Ramadan really demonstrating last time out that whether he starts towards the front of the field or towards the back, he's not to be underestimated with his tenacity to cut his way through the field. But has had quite a bit of bad luck come his way over the course of the season thus far, and that P10 is not representative of where I think he deserves to be in terms of pace. He should be right up there towards the bottom end of what is the top 5, and was going to be hunting that, there's no question about it. Danny Lee in P11 continues to go from strength to strength for the privateer. He's best of the rest on 17 points, one clear of James Parker, with a further point ahead of Joe Newman. And it's Ryan Walker and Emil Koopman to complete your top 15, albeit Walker ahead of Koopman's base result countback. Then Nathan Foster is P16 for Empire Motorsport, 2 points clear, a lead dimmer for Vix Alter Ebadair, with Jack Atkinson, Mark Jones and Roxanne Marshall completing your top 20. And outside the top 20 is Stefan Liversidge and Lucas Romano and Lee Holmes there, who are both on a single point, Romano and Holmes, but Holmes behind Romano based on result countback. We have a new debutant as of today, and that'll be Lee for eSports' Lars Witzig. He'll be starting on the grid, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on his debut. And there'll be Dean Powell and Ashley Ingham yet to score any points to their names, and Marcel Fritsch with -4 points due to post-round penalties, and therefore he was looking to try and convert it into positive points as soon as possible. We then come on to the Silver Class Drivers' Championship, and here we can see the complexion is rather similar. We do have a leader who is starting to break away from the field. That's the former Jerry DeBova for the DBI Bummer Challenge. He has an advantage of 29 points over Adam Greason. However, despite not being on the pace necessarily last time out, Jeremy DeBow was able to find a pair of podiums which have set him up for great success going into today, and he's been able to maintain the lead. Meanwhile, it was to Adam Greason, who looked to be the driver who was on form to really dominate the performances, taking the win in the sprint race at VIL, but not being able to make it onto the podium for the feature race due to a mid-race incident. And therefore, the FR20 Sim Racing driver missed a very important opportunity in order to try and reel in the championship leader. Meanwhile, in P3, it's the rivals, indeed within the team of FR20 Sim Racing, with Steve Hobbs there having better fortunes compared to Greason. And after they made it a 1-2 on the podium in the sprint race, it would be Hobbs who would take the win in the feature race and therefore narrow the gap to only 2 points in the battle for P2. A further 9 points behind is Chris Edison for UK Sim Racing admin team. Another driver who's been plagued with severe bad luck over the course of the season, and he reckons he's got the pace to be inside the top 3 from what we've seen. I would happily agree with him. Then we do have Glenn Humberstone P5 with ATEC Tech Racing, who would be 9 points behind, but 3 clear Sean Cranley Swash right now trying to stay clear of the rest of the field and staying inside that top 5. But it's not easy when you've got 24-hour punty people's Cranley Swash behind, and he's celebrating his birthday today, and we may see him on the grid. We are waiting for confirmation whether we will see him on the grid, but if so, he's going to be charging against the elements and also celebrating his birthday, and well, what a day it is for the 6th place driver. The point behind him is Alex Hiscox with Cameron Smith PA, and Chris Rance and Sean Dobie completing your top 10. And Wayne Bassett P11, best of the rest there for FR20 Sim Racing, and on 21 points, looking to try and build some more points to get closer to his 2 teammates, so right towards the top of the standings, but in return has to be wary of the fact that Jeremy Story only a further 2 points behind, with 4-point gap then to Mark Oliver, followed up by Jules Bounce and Richard White to complete your top 15. It's Didi Laming and P16 on 9 points, 3
I can see it looks not that good.
Point behind,
No.
and Alistair Hatch, the last driver to have a
What's
point
your
to
main
his name at
struggle now?
P19, with 0
the
points
track.
for Steve Lathwell and Daniel Fritz.
Not the temperature?
On -9 points
No.
due to post-round penalties.
Oh, okay.
in
I didn't
P2
even
to
notice
complete
the
silver
temperature, to be
standing.
honest, until about
And then comes to the
3
Team
laps in.
Championship stage.
Oh,
Here
it's
we can see Olympus Esports Vanguard
boiling.
lead the way now by a continually growing margin. And that margin all the way up to the best part there of what is, I do believe, 97 with that 93 points. Let's do the mathematics correct. And they're ahead of their sister team Olympus Esports Titan. And that goes to show how Olympus Esports are really going for gold in all categories so far. Team Germany, meanwhile,
No,
P3,
but I
ahead of
will
Blackout
say it
Motorsport
like
based on
this.
result
I
countback.
think a lot of it
FTR
just
Esports
comes
third,
down to
25 points
survival.
behind in P5, and they're trying to steer
If
clear of
you
effective
survive, I
relations.
think
The UK Sim Racing
you're
admin team
far.
also 5 points off and keeping in the hunt for a top 5 finish this season. Empire Motorsport, Some Sport and AI
just
Race
do nice
WTCW Racing complete your top 10
like,
with further points behind being
consistent
FR20
laps.
Sim
Also,
Racing,
make
best
sure you
rest of the
remember
11.
that this is
Therefore,
open
points clear
quali,
of 24-hour
so
bunty people,
resetting to the pits and
Fix
your quali run
and
is over.
Fix Racing completing your top 15.
So bring enough fuel for an in-lap.
It's ATEC Racing, also on 6 points, much like Clicks Racing, their key rivals, with Team Wales P17 at the DBR Bentman Challenge. And there's Chesler Racing and Whiskey Runners Race who complete the top 20, albeit Whiskey Runners Racing on 0 points, but ahead of Top Gear Sim Racing based on result countback. And there's ATEC, DBR and CS Sim Racing UK who complete your team championship standings. So going from our standings then to our circuit for today is the Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto as it's known in full. Named after the Spanish motorcyclist who passed away quite recently in relative terms. This circuit located in the township of Jerez de la Frontera in the province of Cadiz in the what is the autonomous community of Andalusia in Spain. It is a circuit that doesn't get quite as much recognition on 4 wheels as it does 2 wheels, being a regular host, as we said earlier, to World Superbike Challenge Championships, but at the same time, this is a circuit that when it's raced out on 4-wheel machines, it's definitely felt with regards to its layout. As we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, the MotoGP layout of the circuit will be playing host to our drivers. 13 corners at its core, all of them primarily sweepers or hairpins, and that means we have a very technical circuit, and one is very hard and fast. It turns out it hits the drivers. There's not really much.
It might be better being on the Jerez one.
That's not going to help you.
Quite short, with the back straight being the longest one.
Might be a bit more of a hindrance.
Try and make an overtaking opportunity unless you get an absolutely brilliant run out of the final hairpin onto the start finish line straight. But as our drivers make the way on around, they'll head up through towards turn number 1 and across the start finish line in a rather severe uphill gradient towards Expo 92. As they make their way onto the brakes in a sharp right-hand corner, they'll feel very quickly how off-camber it is and needing to stay on a tight inside line in order to get the corner set up right. Then heading to turn number 2, a downhill braking zone which falls away, and as they sweep the way through the hairpin, they'll come down through the kink of 3, flat out up towards turn number 4, where lift is going to be important and perhaps also a downshift. Then going up towards Tito Ponce at turn number 5, it's a very late apex corner which sees a massive gradient change over the course of the corner, corner apex, and as the car make the way over the apex, they'll find themselves spat out onto the back straight, and literally the car will be ejected out with off-camber nature of the corner, seeing the car want to naturally understeer and run wide. They get it right and they'll carry all the speed down towards dry sack hairpin at turn number 6. The slice corner on the circuit as they head onto the brakes, and as they make their way out of the corner where we could see some major overtaking opportunities presented, then go for the double left at turns 7 and 8. Excellent asphalt corner, it's in a quick switch to a double right at turns 9 and 10. And Jonito and Paliqui corner.
I'm using a fuel that goes in the car.
Right of Alex Graville and Ferrari, a very fast and ferocious double right sweeping section. We're making the way up towards Lorenzo corner at turn number 13.
Oh, is it?
Named after the infamous motorcyclist in recent years of MotoGP. And as they exit the hairpin, it's a run onto the start finish straight once again to complete the lap and do it all over again. Well, just before we go racing,
good
just
luck,
a reminder of the rules once again for the endurance race round.
You do.
Try and
let's
try and not get
30 minutes to set the best possible time. During this 30 minutes, drivers must not reset to the pits outside of the pit lane. In doing so, they'll end their qualifying session prematurely, and the currently set lap will have to stand. Race-wise, there shall be a single 45-minute endurance race, with the race commencing by a standing start as it's a tradition of the UKSR Porsche Cup. And the endurance race grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that is a given. There'll be no mandatory pit stop requirements in the endurance race. So if we see a driver come into the pits, it's for one of two reasons.
So we're allowed to stop at the start of the pit lane,
yeah, as soon as you cross the pit line.
Alternatively, they've got damage on the car and they need to get it repaired, but there's no fast repairs available.
I mean, I don't think it's worth trying to help each other on this track. There's just not.
No, there's only the back straight.
More or less compared to the double pair of rounds
what
we
I do
see
need
over the
though,
course of the
is
calendar.
Charles's
But that's all rules and regulation, everything in between. As we make our way back to live,
pretty sure he can hear you on stream, so you might pop in and say that.
Or Universal Coordinator time +1,
It's my good luck
UTC
charm.
+1, and as we can see, going underway very shortly is our qualifying session. 30 minutes in duration. I believe we've just transitioned over to it, so our drivers will be making them out of the pit lane very shortly.
Come on, Charles.
Look forward to seeing who ends up on pole, and then we make the way to the grid at 8:30 this evening.
Wait, what am I supposed to say?
Endurance race. I believe there's a 5-minute
Yes!
and the race. Once
That's
we're good
the
to go,
one.
Hey,
it's
Charles.
going to be tense, it's going to be tight. And we'll look forward to seeing how our drivers manage their cars
fun.
over the 45 minutes. It's definitely going to be an ultimate test of
Yes.
stamina endurance.
Hey,
of
just
the
to let you
car.
know, as a
Without
point
further
of
ado,
reference,
let's
turn
make the
10
way
is
in
called
to the
Curva
qualifying
Peluki,
session. And as always,
which is
to make the way out
the
of
wid
pit lane,
corner.
well, I can tell you one thing,
So just
it's
be
going to become
aware.
a very crowded circuit very quickly.
I need
given
to
the
put a
fact
wig on.
that we do
Yeah, I
have
mean,
a
it's
grand
kinda hairy,
total
that's
of
what
what
I'm
I
saying.
believe is approximately 30 drivers in the 10th state, if not some more. And as our drivers do
Bit all
start to make
corners
their way
up.
out of the pits,
Yeah.
we look to Lee Deemer here.
To you,
as he
Lee,
comes on through what is
Yep.
turn number 2 and
Especially on the Red Bull
three.
setup.
But it's an absolutely
I thought it
was
sunshine here in Spain. And as we give you an update with
The-
regards to
the proper
weather
setup is always
conditions
helpful.
going into this race, you see it on the right side of your screen there. We do have an average
The
good luck.
audio
2 degrees
sorry,
centigrade. And an absolutely scorching track temperature currently at 50 degrees centigrade.
I mean, it's in and out. I think he gets another hit of helium, and then, you know, he's off to the races for a bit. And then it kind of sorts itself. So I don't know what they got going on. I don't know if it's them or if it's YouTube compressing everything. Well, it's not, it says, I don't think it's our stream, I think it's theirs. So I think
something in the way
audio.
it's something in the way it's pulled into our stream.
I'll see. No, I watched it on YouTube the last time, and it was doing it there too. So.
As we say hello there to Medmo in YouTube.
That's all I
said. Made it just in time, and demands to hear happy birthday singing in respect to Sean at Grundy Swash. Well, he's not currently on the grid, unfortunately.
Well,
I would love to have done a little bit of a sing-along there, particularly if he were to finish on the podium with the silver class. But I hope he is having a happy birthday all the same, and well, sure, we look forward to seeing you back on the grid in the next pair of rounds. But as I try to make the way on around here, what does it take to get a good qualifying lap at the Jerez circuit, you may be asking? Well, the thing about this circuit is, as we said earlier, it's a very technical circuit. There's no real room for breathing around here in terms of respite between the corners. So that means essentially you need to have everything hooked up. You need a setup on the car that enables you to attack the corners and carry as much speed from apex to apex. Given the fact there's only 2 straights around here, you haven't really got an opportunity to demonstrate straight line speed. And the fact if the driver does set up the car for straight line speed by taking a bit of rear wing off, what they gain on that straight, they will lose out more in the corners by comparison. So therefore around here, a lot of downforce on the car is going to go well, but also having the confidence, knowing how wide the car is and how much width you can take from corner to corner is going to be critical, because every extra millimetre that you can give yourself space to turn into a given apex, particularly on the double left into double right section and turn 7 through to 10, that can be worth a whole couple of attempts come the end of the lap. But as we do look to Sean Dobie making his way on through in towards turns number 11 and 12 now, going through the double right here, where this is where the MotoGP circuit deviates from the standard GT or Grand Prix layout, in the fact we would see our drivers go into a chicane there, albeit we're not going to be using the chicane today. And Dobie makes his way through into the final corner and gets himself set up for his first flying lap of the session, and we jump on board here with the Clicks Racing driver as he takes us around for a flying lap on the Jerez circuit. Making his way up towards turn number 1, and then onto the brakes here, braking the 100 metre mark, coming down the gears gradually to second gear. Nice late apex, then gets nice and tight as he now lets the car run out wide and into the braking zone for turn number 2. Jump in for third to second, take plenty of apex curb, let the car get rotating on the curb, and now starts to feather in the throttle as he goes over the curb at turn number 3. A little bit of wobble there as he drops off the curb back onto the tarmac, and then through turn number 4, a lift off the throttle to let the car rotate through before heading up towards turn number 5. Here, bring the car as far left as possible onto the brakes, about 125 metres from the entry point to the apex, down from into third gear, and as he makes his way through the right-hander, plenty of road width being used there, absolutely spot on. That's pinpoint position from Dobie as he now makes his way down towards turn number 6. Heading onto the brakes here, he'll be braking about 120 metres from the corner apex all the way down to second gear, down to first in fact in the apex. He wants the extra rotation and retardation under engine braking, and as he makes his way now at 6 into 7, double left coming up here, flat out through turn number 7, albeit a little lift there, not quite full confidence yet, still trying to get some tyre temperature, and then drop it down to third gear for turn 8, which is a very deceptive corner here. In fact, you can see how much width there is to the circuit, but the problem is you need to get the car back over to left for turn number 9, so not everyone's going to use all that circuit width. Dobie doesn't as he comes through 9 and up towards 10, staying in second gear here, almost hitting the rev limiter, but as he comes through the right-hander, 9, and when he's got the tyres with a bit more temperature, he can be a bit more aggressive there. Now heading to turns 11 and 12, the double right here as he makes way through, lifting in fourth gear there, through turn number 11, flat out through turn number 12, got to keep the throttle down here to pin the rear of the car down onto the tarmac. He brakes his way into turn number 13, braking the 100 metre ball, goes a bit deep, the dirty FR20 sim racing machine in front, perhaps just unsettling in the front, but he does bring it back together to hit a nice late apex, and then towards the time in here, and for Dobie, what's it going to be for his first lap on the board, where it's going to be for the Clicks Racing driver. It's going to be a 145.439, that puts him P3 in the silver class thus far, P12. There's going to be plenty more lap time out there, that is 3.2 seconds off of the provisional pole lap overall as set by Danny Lee, but immediately Patrick Thompson goes even faster. 41.810, and I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, in the build-up to tonight, we were hearing rumours that 1 minute 40s were possible, and I do believe that Olympus eSports really targeting the 140s if they can get into them, albeit the track was a bit cooler back then compared to how it is now, so therefore these warmer temperatures may cause some of those lap times to erode away, and the bar may not be as high, but Thompson draws to a 41.810, which is 200s faster than Lee, and as we've got plenty of drivers still to get a time on the board, well, we do look to our debutant for today, it's Leaf eSports' Lars Witzig, as we can see him here making his way on through. I do believe that being the switchback combination going into coming in out of turn number 4 and into turn number 5, and as he makes his way through the right hand there in the absolutely splendorous green machine, and well, anybody getting some recall there to perhaps the colourful colours of the Benetton F1 machine, which dated into the early 90s. Indeed, that's the sort of shade of green I'm thinking of when I see this car here on our screens right now in the number 62, and we wish him all the best of luck. The birdie's come into this one feeling confident, but also excited to get racing with everyone. He's put quite a bit of practice in to the racing at Jerez, and well, we look forward to seeing how that practice pays dividends to him as he makes his way around there through turn number 8 and into 9. But as he comes on around, meanwhile, we do say hello there to Nathan Scott, who says, Dodge having to show us the pipes. Indeed, I did indeed, Nathan. And we also say hello there to Craig Tillerson, who says, good luck to the FR20 Sim Racing boys. Hope you have as much fun as I did last night for FR20 Sim Racing Yellow in the GT3s. Indeed, racing in another league, which I have the pleasure of covering. Craig Tillerson doing very well in the GT3 around here, and right now hoping that his teammates can have similar luck as they make their way around in the Porsche Cup 992 machine. But as we do look to Chris Rance here, making his way around, currently P4 in the silver class, and keeping in mind, of course, we do have a lot of time in this qualifying session, and time not being of the essence today. You would think, given the fact that we have those 8-minute qualifying sessions in the sprint and feature round pairing format, where the drivers literally do have only 8 minutes, and that's it. Right now, they can really evolve into this qualifying session, and that's the important thing around here as well. You really do need to build yourself up to that ideal lap. Nailing the lap immediately out of the box is not always going to be possible, although I say that, and Thomas Cope right now immediately strikes pole position over 41.427 on only his second flying lap, and that is one hammer. But the point being around here, these laps are continuing to grow. Marbles are being laid down, the circuit is gradually gripping up, but it's also getting hotter, the circuit, and well, it's a bit of a contrast there. As we find the circuit does evolve, it does become a little bit grippier, but at the same time, the amount of temperature going on through means that tyres are going to feel very skittish in terms of the grip available lap after lap when you push. And Hammer P2 currently, so it does look as though right now Hammer is trying to close the gap there and trying to take that pole position as soon as possible, and well, they are in a similar place on the circuit right now, as we do see Hammer making his way down towards turn number 6. And we talked about last time, albeit with the absence of Cope, so therefore we are seeing Hammer and Cope back together on the circuit now after the mid-season break, but we talked about the fact that there was a trend in season 6 whereby Hammer had a very difficult first half of the season. He wasn't out of the championship, but it was definitely looking as though the title defence was on the line at certain points, and in the second half of the season he just absolutely nailed it round after round, lap after lap. It seems as though we saw the Hammer of season 5 come back, and again we saw that Virginia International Raceway. We've seen a different kind of driver, and I think Hammer really has used the first 5 rounds of this season just to get into the swing, see who he's competing against, and see where the pace sits and also where his main rivals are. And now going into the effective second half of the season after the mid-season break, he's now already coming alive, and we're seeing that. In fact, the lap times he's putting in are really representative of what we've seen previously, as he almost misses his pit entry there and almost overshoots the braking zone. But as he makes his way into the pit lane, well, we've had 1/3 of this qualifying session complete. And we do look from one of our leading gold drivers to our leading silver driver in the Silver Class Championship, and also in terms of qualifying right now, Jeremy DeBova, and he is 1.5 seconds off the overall pole. He's in P12, but the key point here, as we do update your class standings there, we show you the classes as they would line up if they were segregated on the grid. This gives you an idea of the relative pace between class drivers. We can see at DeBova right now 6/10, if not a little bit more, clear of the next silver driver, Alex Hiscox, who P2 in the silver class grid. He'll be starting P16 versus Jeremy DeBova P12 in the overall grid if the qualifying session was to finish now. And DeBova going on to another flying lap very short. He's on an out lap currently as he makes his way through the left-hander, and as he does, coming through Lorenzo corner at turn number 13 and then up the hill towards turn number 1. Well, DeBova here will think as though he can raise the bar a bit further, and if he can qualify inside the top 10, that would be a huge achievement, and it would make it feel very comfortable for the remainder of the day, particularly if none of the other silver class riders can get anywhere near as close, given the fact Hiscox will be starting on the 8th row currently, DeBova will be starting on the 6th row. If he can add one more row into that gap, it gives him a lot of breathing room to play with over the 45 minutes of racing, and that is the thing I think a lot of drivers are going to have on their mind here, is the 45-minute race, for the simple reason we know that the tyres on these Porsche Cup cars do not last more than 20 minutes when they're pushed, and what that means is essentially you've got 45 minutes of racing where our drivers are not even going to have the tyres to really last them in terms of driving aggressively or quickly quickly for half the race. So therefore a lot of time management's going to go, and we could see some drivers absolutely spring at the start of the race, only to then be reeled in the final 15 to 20 minutes. And speaking of springing his way up the order, well, Chris Edison right now, the UK Sim Racing Admin team driver, goes provisional silver pole on a 42.741, 2.5 tenths faster than Jeremy Debova's lap. But again, of course, we've got plenty of time to come here, it would seem. And well, Edison right now puts himself P10 on the overall grid, and that's what we're saying about earlier in terms of anybody can get themselves in the silver class inside that overall top 10. I think they're going to be very safe going into lap number 1. Presuming there's no incident amongst the gold drivers in front of them. You can never tell, of course. That's what happens in all motorsport, not just in the UK Sim Racing League. But as he makes his way on down the hill, keeping it all clean as he makes his way in towards turn number 6. As he heads on down and in towards the braking zone. Meanwhile, we do look to some drivers who yet to get a lap time on the board, including FR20 Sim Racing's Adam Greason, who are right now very eager to try and arrest the difficulties of last time out. And well, as he makes his way on through turn 17 into 8, right now the FR20 Sim Racing driver eager to try and get a lap time that's representative of where he wants to be. And of course, he wants to be, as a minimum, ahead of Debova. Ideally, he wants to be ahead of Edison. He wants to take the silver class pole position. But the problem is here, where it's going to be a rock and a hard place. Now, I would say taking on the hard place will be Debova as a minimum. And as he makes his way on through turn number 10 and up towards the lemon, he's also got the distant toe there of one of his teammates. I believe that may be Hobbs, unless we're mistaken. I think it is Stephen Hobbs just in front of him, and we can confirm it is. Oh, goodness me, he loses the rear of the car there, does Greason, and just turning through turn number 12, and the car letting go on the rear axle. And as he now tries to get the car restored, he's going to reverse, but this is going to lead to a yellow flag, which everyone coming on through will have to respect. But meanwhile, from one silver driver's had it go wrong to what is a gold driver who is gradually finding some pace. Khalid Ramadan for Somsport will right now making his way on through turn number 2 and into 3. He's P17. I think he'll feel as though there needs to be a lot more time there, but he's got the time to play with. He doesn't need to do this too quickly in terms of getting the lap on the board. And again, he's never one you can underestimate in the fact, or count out I should say, and to count him out early is to underestimate him in the fact the number 80 driver, as we saw at Virginia International Raceway, he had an absolutely dismal sprint race, but meanwhile in the feature race he came all the way through the back of the field, much like Danny Lee, the two of them of course being involved in a bit of contact together in the sprint of Virginia, only to then come charging through the order and make the way all the way up towards what was the top 10 places, and that long tail battle to be inside the top 5 right at the end of the gold class in the feature race. And Will Ramadan was one of the major belligerents in there who did successfully pull it off in the end and finish inside the top 5 if my memory serves me correctly. But right now looking to here today as he makes his way up between turns 8 and 9, you can see that direction change, the way the car sweeping from side to side. And that's one of the wonderful things about the Porsche 992 and really the demonstration of Porsche manufacturing at its finest here, when these cars are made for handling, made for direction change, the king of direction change you could argue, with the engine being based over the rear axle, and it's really a rear engine rear wheel drive car rather than what we typically classify as a mid-engine rear wheel drive, and therefore all that weight swinging around on the back as it goes a bit too wide there, does Ramadan out of 12, so it will be an invalidated lap, but he's still got plenty more laps in the tank in terms of the time available to him. But meanwhile, as we do look to James Parker, another double gold champion for DCW Racing with AI Summaries, and as he makes his way on through turn number 3 and into 4, as he comes through the left hand. And if you're ever wondering what the ARS logo on the side of the car stands for, that stands for AI Racing Summaries, as he makes his way up towards turn number 5 here. And with Parker, we haven't seen quite up there in terms of pace so far this season, but definitely looking as though it's a different tune he's singing to today, as he makes his way on down towards turn number 6, as he comes up charging on down towards the braking zone, looking very confident here to be trying to qualify inside the top 5. He is only currently 1.3 tenths of Corey Lazarus' P5 time, but with Lazarus on an outlap right now, and so is Daniel Lee, and you see Danny Lee there right behind, and I always call him Daniel, I should refer to him as Danny, as I think he does prefer the more informal version of his name as he makes his way through turn number 8 into 9. But right now the red machine making its way all around in the red privateer, and as he comes on through, if he does score a couple of podiums, well, you never know, we might be starting to refer to him as the Red Baron of the Porsche Cup as he comes on around here and up towards turn number 11. But looking at back to Parker, well, it has been a bit of a slow start to the season, but definitely now starting to find his form and momentum as he heads in towards the braking zone for turn 13. And as he heads on, the lock-up for a car just in front. I believe it's a lock-up for the car of what is Stephen Lathwell, but as we do see what is here, the machine of Parker heading towards the timeline. What's going to be with James Parker this time around? He does improve in subsectors 1 and 4, and he improves to 41.941. It's good enough to put him P5, and it puts him half a tenth ahead of Corey Lazarus, and puts him a tenth off of Danny Lee's time in P4, with Patrick Thompson, and then only a further 200 at the start of the road. So it's looking very close for the second row of the grid, but Copenhagen in their battle for pole position really are now started to take the front row of the grid and make it their own, with only a tenth between the two of them, and they are effectively almost 3 tenths clear of the rest of the field as a minimum. But meanwhile, as we do look from one gold driver who's finished lap and has gone on to another, to a gold driver who's made his way towards the end of the current lap. Here is the Fixed Auto Aberdare driver from Wales, Lee Deemer, as he heads out to turn number 13. And as he makes his way towards the timeline, heading over to left-hand side here. Deemer did improve in subsector 1, so improve elsewhere on the lap. He is currently a whole 3 seconds off the goal pole in the overall pole time set by Cope, and Deemer not improving that time around, so still plenty of time to find. And well, here Deemer may be thinking more about the race rather than qualifying, but as he makes his way on through turn number 2 and down in towards 3, or as he rolls the car off and in towards turn number 4. Meanwhile, we do look at some drivers who've yet to get lap time on the board, including Paul Joseph Bliss as he makes his way into the pit lane. And well, we've yet to see go out on circuit Joe Newman, also I believe Mark Oliver, who's at pit exit right now and just sat at the end of the pit exit, perhaps he's trying to fix an issue with the car. When we say pit exit, I think he's rolled out his pit box and they've taken the car back. And Lucas Romano has yet to go out there and put a lap on as well. We've got 5 drivers looking for it, and also DDD Belaming. So a bit of a surprise here. So we have 28 drivers who are registered time, 5 without, out of our grand total of 33 drivers in attendance. So therefore it does look as though here some drivers might be starting well out of position. But meanwhile, Cameron Smith here, right now P10 in the silver class, as we do bring those class standings once again on the left-hand side of your screen as he makes his way on through. Turn number 5 and down towards 6. And well, Cameron Smith right now a bit off the pace of Sean Dobie in the battle for P9 in the silver class in this qualifying session. It is the best part of 8 tenths between the two of them, but in return he is 7 tenths clear of Craig Schill. So therefore it does look as though towards the bottom end of the silver class we do have a few drivers who are still trying to find their pace and find their times at the red circuit, whereas others are now starting to group together. And speaking of that grouping together, well, here is Jeremy DeBova, the DBR Bowman Challenge driver, and we can see right now he's provisional silver pole on a 42.720, and he is only ahead of Chris Eddersford by 200. That's how close it is, as both drivers continue the battle for that silver pole position. And then Chris Rance is a further 7 tenths off. So again, much like in the gold class, we've got a top 2 in the silver class that really are trying to make that pole shootout their own. But as we see DeBova making his way through turn 11 into 12, will he be able to improve this time around, or will he find as the car goes off the road? That's Cameron Smith taking a run into the gravel, and we'll get him very wrong there indeed. But meanwhile, we're going to see as Philip Hammer's coming to the pit lane after setting a 41.399 to take provisional gold pole and overall pole. Well, it's going to be DeBova who crosses the line. Is it an improvement here from what his lap time was previously at 42.720? No, it's not. He's going to have to go again. But meanwhile, as he comes towards another lap, we look to a driver coming towards the end of a lap who we're going to jump on board with in the gold class, and it will be Ryan Walker very shortly. In fact, I think they're having to back the car slightly coming out of the final corner, but he does get a good run, and as he makes his way up towards turn number 1, we jump on board and we'll take you through the lap. He's making his way into the braking zone here, using plenty of the left-hand curve to widen the corner. Got to be careful to use too much of a third gear, interesting on the apex there. Just trying to go for a high gear to get the throttle down more aggressively on exit. And drops into second for turn number 2. Takes plenty of apex curve, makes his way out. He's going to upshift the third right at the top of the RPM range. Up into fourth here, now turning into turn number 4. Slight lift there, a very small lift, about 70% roll, but carries a bit too much speed. The car runs wide. It will be an invalidated lap for Walker. He's going to back it off immediately here as he now gets himself set for another lap. Unfortunate for the satellite racing driver, but just carrying a bit too much speed there. Really trying to go for gold, but in the end it was going for broke instead as he makes his way down towards turn number 6. But as he does so, we'll try and catch him a little bit later on. We do look instead now to a driver making the way on around and looking to get a new representative lap on the board. I do believe we have none other than what is Philip Hammer making his way down towards what is turn number 6 here, and right now provisional gold pole sitter only by 300ths over Kobe. He is on an outlap, his Hammer, as he gets himself set. But we look from him briefly to Jeremy DeBoer in the silver class, who makes his way out the final corner, and we've gone purple in subsector 3 for the silver class. What's it going to be? I think this could be an even fast lap for silver pole for a 42.720. It's not quite enough. He practically matches the lap. So DeBoer right now has got more time out there, but he's just trying to find it as he heads down towards turn number 2. But then we do go back to Philip Hammer as he gradually winds himself up to a new lap. He's on an out lap at the moment, and we will be jumping on board with the Team Germany driver as he heads into the final corner to take you through a lap in the gold class. We did one earlier, of course, with what was our Clicks Racing driver, Sean Dobie, in the silver class. And as Hammer makes his way down, current pole sitter, and into the corner, opens the corner up as much as possible here. Well, I think that might be a bit of invalidation, but he's going to open it up as much as he can. I think he is allowed to get away with that, or is he? Well, he gets on the power, heads his way up towards turn number 1, and in fact, it will be just a wind up to the next lap. So Hammer not deciding to go for a full attack lap here, so it won't be a ride on board with him. So I think that might have been to let a driver on through the car behind, and in fact, he makes his way into the pit lane. Or in fact, does he make his way into the pit lane? No, he doesn't. He just brings himself off the racing line. We thought he was coming to a standstill there, and he tucks in behind Lars Pitzig. As right now, we do see the Elite eSports driver coming down through turn number 3. They're both trying to negotiate where they want to be on circuit relative to one another. As we do bring you back to the overall standings on the left-hand side of your screen, and we'll pull Joseph Bliss make his way on an outlap. Meanwhile, getting a bit wrong there in the rear of your picture. I believe that is the car of what is. I do believe that's Alex Hiscox getting it slightly wrong and sliding sideways coming out of turn number 4. A bit too much speed there, and that's going to be some very heavily overheated tyres, and also with that it could be a flat spot or two, particularly on the rear tyres. He now makes his way down towards turn number 6, and Hiscox currently P5 in the silver class, P21 overall, and will not run out of time per se, but he is right now running out of road in this lap, and he'll be looking towards the next lap in order to be able to do a little bit better and potentially move himself inside the top 20, given the fact he is only half a tenth of Chris Rance's P20 time, and will then battle for P4 in the silver class. But as we do see Hiscox wind his way on through turn number 8 and into line. Behind him he's got James Parker right now, and James Parker still inside the top 10 of the gold class, P6. He has been stepped ahead by Witzig, as meanwhile we do look to Parker as he exits turn at number 9 and into 10. And I do agree with you there, Medbo. Cook tyres for Alex Hiscox, and I think he's going to definitely be thinking about either coming into the pits and getting a quick tyre change on the board. Alternatively, he's going to let the tyres cool down, and if he needs to, spend another lap cooling them down, getting himself fully psyched up, to then go full attack for what will be the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session. As Parker makes his way through turn number 13 through Lorenzo Corner. He's improved. He's on a personal best in subsector 1 and subsector 3. Subsector 2 wasn't anything to scream home about, but as he crosses the timing line, subsector 4 was not a huge improvement, but it is an improvement overall on the lap, and it puts him P3. And Parker right now only 400ths of a Hammer's pole time, 100th of a Thomas Coates P2 lap. So right now it is getting very close to the top end of the field here, and could we see Parker on the front row for the first time this season? Well, would you imagine? I think right now it would be a dream to see the two gold champions, both the two-time gold champions, say that in a hurry multiple times over, I dare you. But seeing a Hammer and Parker on the front row, I think many of you will be wishing that right now. But I can tell you one thing, the leader of the gold championship coat will not be hoping that happens, and instead he'll be hoping he can find a way to come back as he makes his way through turn number 8 and into 9. And as he does so, we bring you an update on what is the weather conditions around here. And as we can see, the weather right now, well, the ambient temperatures dropped slightly by degrees centigrade, as has the track temperatures. We are moving towards the evening now in Spain, but still it's a very hot circuit, 49 degrees centigrade track temperature in particular, and that is going to be absolutely abysmal for the tyres of these cars. But as we then do look to the dashboard here for what will be the lap going in for Thomas Cope, he's made his way onto a flying lap, and well, let's jump on board here and take you through it. Made his way out for the final corner and then up towards turn number 1. He brings the car over to the left hand side very gradually here in 5th gear, and in fact hits the rev limiter there, and I think Cope may in fact have already scuppered this lap before he's even gone on the charge. We'll follow it through to the end as he makes his way out to out of 1 and into 2, and as he comes down to 2nd gear here, I think he's going to try and redeem the rest of the lap as he goes through turn number 3, and coming on through there flat out all the way out towards 4, lift off the throttle, turning nice and early, use plenty of apex curve to drag the car on around, and up towards turn number 5, and Hang on to the brakes here. It is a very early run to the brakes here for Cope, so this is going to be an aborted lap, and I think we will have to wait and see if he's able to put something together on the next lap, but hitting the rev limiter there before he made his way into turn number 1 in 5th gear, and just did not quite make that work at all. And well, now for Cope, it is definitely a missed opportunity, and one that he will not want to miss again, given the time remaining. We're looking outside of the overall top 10. P11 best of the rest right now overall is this man, as he misses his apex there, in fact misses the exit curve. It is apex misses Emil Koopmans as the Dutchman makes his way into turn number 9, and as he makes one through, he's on an outlap, albeit in fact that's turn 4 into 5, we should correct ourselves there, as he comes on down in towards the brakes over turn number 6, and doing a bit of side-to-side weaving there just to get some of the dirt off the tyres as he heads on down. And of course, when you run wide in these Porsche Cup cars, it does take a couple of corners to get the tyres cleaned up and get them back in the zone where you want to really push them once again. Not a comfortable place to be, but as he heads on through turn number 7 into 8. Right now, time starting to come towards a close on this qualifying session. 3.5 minutes on the clock, plus overtime for drivers who are on a lap when we can see the clock strike 30 minutes. Car off the road there, pointing the wrong way. That's by the FR20 sim racing machines. I do believe that may be the car of Wayne Basson who has got it wrong, and as we do see, Wes Coombs made his way up through turn at number 10 up towards 11. The Empire Motorsport car there of Joe Newman stepping aside. That's currently P18 overall, and Newman being one of the lowest placed gold drivers at this time, albeit only half a tenth of Team Germany's Marcel Fridge, as it's getting very spicy in the rear of the picture there, and I believe that might have been a little bit stepping over between, well, not Corey Lazarus, but I believe that was Samuel Sproul getting into a little bit of a nip and tuck with another car as they made their way in towards turn 13. Here is Corey Lazarus by comparison, but definitely everyone trying to find some space out to the circuit as they make their way on through, and as we do now only have 3 minutes left on the clock, well, it is going to be the onus on Cope here to try and improve on another lap, as this time he is going for it. He has just set a purple sector 1, we should point out, so the run through turn 1 through to 4 has been the fastest anybody's achieved so far, and as he makes his way in towards turn number 8 here, well, the update with regards to sector 2 is that Cope has set a personal best in sector 2. He's making his way towards the end of sector 3 now, going through turn number 9, the sector line coming up just in the exit this quarter before turn 10, where the blue stripe is in the runoff area there, and it's not an improvement in sector 3, but this could be close for pole here as he makes his way into turns 11 and 12, going on through the double right he goes a bit wide there. Will that be an invalidation to the lap? I think it may be, as Cope they're coming to a slowdown off of the racing line, and well, letting it go. He's going to go for one more lap here, but that's frustrating. Just the slightest deviation outside the track limits, and as soon as he does, it's going to be to the lap being invalidated. But Cope right now knowing that it was a lap that could have been enough for pole, and he's going to have to go for it again as he makes his way onto one final lap here. Does the Olympus eSports driver, our gold championship leader, going into tonight, and will Philip Hammer meanwhile making his way on around here. He'll have one more lap available to him if he's got the fuel to do so. Meanwhile, in the silver class battle for pole, we can tell that Jeremy DeBoer is still holding on to that position by what is only 200ths over Chris Edison, who's in the pit lane. So Edison, I think, has given that pole position to DeBoer in terms of saying he's not got anything left in the tank. But meanwhile, as we do see Hammer making his way on around, DeBoer feels like he's got it all done. Joe Newman jumps up to P9 there on a 42.286, but as Hammer makes his way through the final corner, he's gone personal best in subsector 1. He's gone fastest of everybody in subsector 3. He heads towards the timeline here, and what's it going to be for the number 60 driver? Can he go even faster as he crosses the line? He does. It's a 41.311. He improves by 800ths. That puts him a 10th and a bit clear of Cope. Meanwhile, Cope right now will be trying to strike back here. He's going to be very close towards the end of the 30-minute mark, but we do believe overtime rules are in effect here, whereby they can finish the lap that they're currently on, but we'll have to wait and see as Cope makes his way into turn number 9. He has got a bit of traffic in front of him. It's the other Team Germany car, Marcel Fritsch, just in front as they make their way through turn number 10. This may help Cope, however, he gets close enough out the final corner. It may give him a little bit of sprint to the line, but as he heads through turn number 11, Cope coming on through the right hand here, using all the speed. The camera angle deceptively slow there in terms of how it made the car look, but as he makes way in, it's going to be a return to the pits here for Cope, and well, that will be it, ladies and gentlemen, in the battle for pole position here in the gold class. We believe in the Hammer will take it by a 10th in the end. Parker's on an outlap, so he's not eligible to try and dethrone Cope or Hammer from that front row of the grid. But what about Patrick Thompson, I hear you ask, as he makes his way on around? Well, this looks to be a cool down lap here for Thompson, so that is his qualifying session done and dusted. Meanwhile, as we said earlier in the silver class, it will be Jeremy DeBoer who is going to take silver pole position here, with only Alex Hiscox, the other silver driver, out on circuit at the moment. Ryan Walker goes P12 on a 42.454, and we can see there between what is Joe Newman all the way back to Koopmans in P13, so P9 and P13 only separated by 3 tenths of fuel. That's how close it is in the battle to be inside the top 10 of the gold class and overall. But definitely this has been a qualifying session where we have seen a turn in momentum today, and the key one being here, Philip Hammer taking pole ahead of Cope by a tenth in the end, and we have to wonder what Cope would have had if that lap had not seen that run wide out of turn number 11. But still, the Team Germany driver has got the job done in qualifying, and now he needs to turn that into the race and turn that pole into a victory, and he'll start to really chisel away at the advantage that Cope has built up in the championship thus far. And meanwhile, it's also a great job done by a deep elbow challenge for Jeremy DeBoer here. We started P15 on the grid. He's got 1 place between himself and Chris Edison, but Khalid Ramadan starts at P16. As Nathan Foster goes P9, he manages to jump ahead of Joe Newman, so it is the Empire Motorsport drivers who occupy the 5th row of the grid together, but it is going to be Foster who gets the upper hand in that qualifying battle between the two teammates. And was anybody else on the lap? I believe everyone now has concluded their laps, but it has been a qualifying session to remember, and well, now we look forward to seeing how this will translate into the race. Well, in fact, I suspect how this field is going to start is
Marcel
necessarily going to finish.
coming onto the back straight
around here
went
can be
really
wide,
wide,
but at the same time as well, we have to keep in mind that when battles do start, they will be running from quarter to quarter, and they will lead to some absolute thrilling moments. As we see Corey Lazarus here started,
and he just stayed in it for the rest of the lap, right in front of me, and wouldn't get out of the way, even though he took an off track.
In the midpoint of the top 10,
so it just gave me understeer for the final sector, and I just couldn't make up the time behind him.
He's got quite a bit of work still ahead of him, but if anybody goes
you
stronger in the
wouldn't
race
happen to
compared
guess
to
that that's
qualifying,
the teammate of the guy in pole position.
Yeah, I wondered.
Really come alive in the late stages of
it's alright because Philip's not going to survive to the end of lap 2 anyways. Parker's going to easily outbrake himself and kill himself.
Yeah, but then nevertheless, if Marcel Laxton was impeding you, I just protest that. But we can chat about that afterwards. For the fuel, do you think 75 is too much or fine?
I think 75 is enough.
And if you've ever
I'm planning on
UK Sim Racing, beyond just subscribing to the channel and giving it this broadcast
I think 73 is doable, but I don't want to
UK
risk
Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing.
I've got 74 and I should end the race with about
Sim Race Coaching,
3.9.
Race Anywhere and Demon Tweaks. And you can find out
Because
all
apparently
about
it's
this
saying
by
27 laps and I've got
website,
28.5.
that is at uksimracing.co.uk. If you head there today, the website will look like this.
It might be because of the track temperature.
Well, it's actually it's saying 26.6.
If you click on that button, it's going to be beneficial for you for two reasons.
Done it around doing a 41 once all race,
Sim Racing community event where it's a
and it said 27 laps.
You need to be part of the Discord as per the rules and regulations
It's going to be very slower, really,
driver
and
briefing.
hard
Also,
to
secondly, and perhaps more importantly for today, in the fact that on our Discord we do have a section which is dedicated to discount codes which are only available from our affiliates and our Discord. And if you use one of those codes as part of a purchase from one of our affiliates, it's a win for you for the simple reason that you get a discount on your purchase, and it's a win for the whole of the UK Sim Racing
He came to the line with 1 minute remaining, and he obviously probably thought that he couldn't complete a lap or something. So he crashed on the main straight and didn't get out of my way when I started mine as well. Just to
Did he do it on purpose?
I don't know, go have a look.
Either way, protest the ball if you want to.
And more we've got planned for 2023 and onwards. So do remember, a little purchase will go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing, and we'll have to wait to see whether a pole position that can go a long way for our drivers in their respective classes. But as we do still have this warm-up in effect, we've got 3 minutes left on the timer. And everybody get themselves set right now. And you may be wondering at this point, okay, so what changes between qualifying and also the race? Well, one of the biggest things for our drivers is the setup they'll be using. Now in qualifying, our drivers will naturally want to go with the setup on the car that's a lot more aggressive. In the fact that we'll have very little fuel in the car, particularly on the lap where they try to go for that ultimate lap time. But also on top of that, they'll most likely have a brake bias, which is a little bit more rear bias in terms of it opens up the rear of the car under braking. On top of that as well, they may have anti-roll bars set up in a manner whereby we do see the rear of the car and also the front of the car, much more aggressive turning and also mid-apex through the corner exit. Whereas now they look for a bit more of a stable car, but also you have to keep in mind that the fuel tank of these Porsche 992 machines is based in the front, it's not based in the rear, and that is why you typify things of Porsche racing machinery in what is the four-wheel category, in the fact they do have the fuel tank in a different position compared to your traditional expectation of it being in the back of the car, and that means that when we have a lot of fuel in these cars, they behave very differently from when they have very little fuel in the car. So therefore, drivers will be looking to make adjustments on their setup in order to effectively get the most out of the car over the entirety of the race. We might see a little bit of rear wing added to the car or taken off the car, depending on the driver's preference. It'll be all that and more now, so they'll set the cars up for success over 45 minutes of racing, and we're not too far away from it. But speaking of being far away, Didi Blamey will be quite far away from the front of the silver class grid in the DBR Bowman Challenge machine, as the Belgian having a difficult qualifying session as we see him making his way on through here, turning number 8 into 9. As he clears left hand and goes into the right hander, well, he'll be looking to try and make as much pace as possible up through the field. The same for Lucas Romano, the DBR driver in the gold class.
I'm most excited about for this race. When it
session,
finishes,
it
I
was
can read
in
the
the late
AI
stages,
summary thing.
didn't really see too much of him in
Just to see what it says.
And the number 39 driver 9, he's got his work cut out from the back of the field. But then again, some drivers start from the back. You never know how they can start through the field.
Looking forward to it.
If we do have a major incident on
some
the
of the examples
the
I've
first
seen
couple
are
of laps,
amazing.
Significant incidents, they may find themselves
It's
very
just
quickly
abuse
promoted up the
gives
order.
them.
But we're not wishing that would happen, but it does happen every so often, and that's something that'll be on the minds of our drivers as everybody gets set here and ready to go. I don't know about you guys and girls, but I can tell you one thing, I'm absolutely itching to see how this all plays out in practice now, as all our drivers get themselves set to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, and to see this set here in the province of Cadiz in Spain, in the fact that Chiquito de Jerez definitely has set us up for an enticing prospect. It's going to be Hammer and Cope in the charge towards turn number 1, and meanwhile in the silver class it is going to be Jeremy DeBoer who looks to fend off a resurgent Chris Eddersford, and Eddersford looking to try and notch up what is his first win of the season, but will DeBoer be able to keep him away? We are not too far away from finding out all that and more, and we'll place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know in the YouTube chat who you're cheering on, who you're expecting to take the respective class wins. And we do need to apologise earlier for mistaking Ben Peterson for Samuel Sproul in the qualifying session. We talked about why the Blackout Motorsport car has been involved in a little bit of an incident. We've got Sproul, but in fact it was
nice and easy
Peterson there. And as we do see the Australian driver parked up currently, he's getting himself ready and set to go racing. Sproul not in attendance today. We hope to see all three of the Blackout Motorsport machines on the grid next time round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the warm-up complete. It's time to head to the grid for the round.
It's preferable line, but
race.
Just means he can, if he's got the run on the inside,
line up today.
Stay on the
It is Philip Hamo starts on pole position.
Just keep an eye on Parker. Parker gets a good run, shout out.
eSports Vanguard. Attempt between them in qualifying, but will it be that in the race?
I mean, I'm on push
to
to talk, so I'm probably not going to be able to.
DCW Racing, a fan favourite, finding its way onto the second row of the grid.
Remember to grid, by the way, only 20 seconds, so get on the grid.
Thompson for Olympus eSports Vanguard. We now have row number 3, the privateer of Danny Lee and Lars Witzig on his debut for Leaf eSports, starting P6, followed up on row 4 by Corey Lazarus of Blackout Motorsport and Daniel Sedgley for Olympus eSports Titan. Completing the top 10 on row number 5, it's an Empire Motorsport 910 with Nathan Foster and Joe Newman, followed up by Ben Peterson and Ryan Walker on what is the 6th row of the grid. Behind them on row number 7 is Emil Koumans and Dean Powell, followed up by Jeremy DeBoer and Kelly Ramadan, with Jeremy DeBoer being your silver pole sitter. It's Chris Eddersford and Marcel Fridge on row number 9, with row 10 completed the top 20 going to Glenn Humberstone and Alex Hitchcock, with Steve Hobbs and Chris Rance starting on your 11th row. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go racing. It's a charge to turn number 1. It's going to be Ham on the left of your picture. It's going to be Cove on the right of your picture. It's a drag race off the line.
Gone.
It's lights out and away we go for round 8 here in Spain. And Hammer gets the better start of the two as they make the way up the hill. Now as they're headed towards the braking zone, you can see in fact Cove having a slow start. He's got Parker looking up the inside, but Parker defending more versus Thompson. Parker loses the rear of the car on cold brakes. Car goes sideways. Everyone negotiates their way around the AI Race Summaries machine. And as they make the way down to the braking zone for turn number 2, which goes to be Lazarus side by side here with Witzig, as Witzig having a slow start, but Corey Lazarus leaping to the charge here, but as they make the way in towards turn number 4, side by side for them, and it's side by side between Wes Cope there and Hammer as they make the way on through, and Cope takes the lead this race as they make the way towards turn number 5. Now coming on through there, it's going to be Cope and Hammer very close, nose to tail as they make that out of the corner, but Cope getting the better run through turns 2, 3 and into 4, and that's how he's he's got the move done as they make the way down towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go. Everyone now starting to calm down to a degree. Ben Peterson here, another huge gainer at the start of this race, gaining 2 places and looking around the outside there of Nathan Foster in towards turn number 6. He can't quite find it, however, and as they make the way on around, we've only had one car really go round at the start, minus James Parker, and that was Mark Oliver. But otherwise, everyone else has survived the opening couple of corners as we see a Vitzig looking now to try and hold off here with the move for Corey Lazarus as they head in towards turn number 9. And Lazarus still trying to get his P5 on the Vitzig as they head through turn number 10. Goes a bit deep there, does the German driver. Now it's going to the New Zealand goes on the inside into turns 11 and 12. Side by side they go, and you can see already how this battling has caused them to fall away from the front of the field. And Vitzig has to go deep there, and in response backs on the throttle. And Daniel Sedgwick gains the place as they make the way towards turn number 13. And on his inside goes Nathan Foster. Foster late on the brakes there, goes all in with the move. Does he get it done, however, as they exit the corner, went side by side. It's a drag race up the hill, and as they make the way up towards turn number 1 once again, everyone right now in a charge in towards the braking zone. Also Ben Peterson behind as they go onto the anchors, and it's going to be Vitzig who defends well here, as meanwhile further back we can tell you that it's a three-way fight for the leader of the silver class. Alex Hiscox has gained 3 places over 1 in class so far, and in fact we do demonstrate that gain on the side of your screen now, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to who's the biggest gainers and the biggest losers. And the biggest gainer of them all is Lucas Romano, who started P31 on the grid. He's up to P23. That's overall gains, not class gains, we should point out. But also we had 15 place loss of James Parker. He's the biggest loser in terms of places after that near spin through turn number 1, just on that inside line on cold tyres. But here you are looking at Jeremy DeBoer, Chris Edison and Alex Hiscox nose to tail here as they make the way down towards turn number 6. Well, with DeBoer pulling a little bit away this time, but Edison staying close behind. Parker trying to recover this race. He goes up the inside of Hiscox into turn number 6, and as they make the way onto the brakes, it looks though here Parker will get the move done, or will he, as he now has to fight around the outside into turn 7. He was. Hiscox backs out slightly there and lets the move go. But as they make the way in towards turn number 8, well, we're going to take a look back at that race start, ladies and gentlemen, and in terms of how they all missed James Parker, but also how Cope made the move on the hammer for the lead. So as we look back to the start of the race, we look at Parker in terms of the focus here, and this was off the line, so Parker gets a good run initially, but you'll notice how, looking around the outside, Patrick Thompson here, and Parker really squeezed towards the apex, but the door starts to open up, and he holds a tight line, and on the power, well, the rear of the car just lets go, and in doing so, he has to stop the car, but as he does so, everyone negotiates the way around. Now, what happened in between Cope and Hammer? Hammer went deep at 2, and this is what led to Cope then being all over the back and switches back through 3, and then going into turn 4. This is bold from Cope to do this on cold tyres at the start of the race, but perhaps he feels as though once he's ahead he can start to break away. But a nice move from Thomas Cope, and that's how he gained the place as we now return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, that was the race start from the front of the field. We will take a look back at what happened to Mark Oliver at the start of the race. He's had a difficult start, and well, he's currently in fact, he's left the pit lane. He's got repair work ongoing to the car. As we do refresh the overlay there to get your circuit map back in the top right corner of your screen. Don't worry, we're not going to let it run away for too long. Parker right now continuing to try and battle his way through the field as rapidly as he possibly can, and definitely right now having to fight hard in order to gain places. And speaking of which, we've also got a gold driver who started from towards the back of the field, making his way up the field very rapidly. It's Lucas Romano who picks up another driver. He goes around the outside of Chris Rance at turn number 5, down into 6 they go, gains another place, and as they make the way in towards the right hand at turn number 6, makes a nice move there. But meanwhile, we've also seen had an instant that Alex Hiscox, who's dropped a long way down the order from what we can tell you at the moment. We will try and get an update on that very shortly. What happened to Alex Hiscox in the battle for P3 in the silver class, or in the battle for what we should say is P2 and the lead, as he was so close to back at Boba and Edison. But it's gone wrong for Hiscox, but meanwhile it's going right for Edison and Boba and Glenn Humberstone as we're up into P3 in the class. As meanwhile, we've got Cameron Smith here gaining the place over what is, I do believe, none other than Stephen Blackwell. Had a bit of a slow run there coming through turn number 8, and as they make their way through 9 and 10, Smith gaining another place here and really trying to regain some ground he's lost early on in the race. But as he makes his way through turn 9 and up towards through turn number 11 up towards 12, we do have the opportunity to get a replay of what happened to Alex Hiscox. But before we do, that's Glenn Humberstone who's gone round on the exit of the final corner. The 888 Racing driver who was 3rd place in the silver class. It's all gone so horribly wrong in a short span of time up to P3 in the class, and it would seem that 3rd place in silver right now is cursed in the fact that whoever's in the place is going to be involved in an instant. And speaking of which, what happened to Alex Hiscox, you ask? Here's the replay.
Now at the time, chasing after with James Parker in turn looking for the move on Edisford. This is into turn 13. Hitchcock's under his own volition under brake. He gets the power down, and that is power oversteer there. The rear of the car letting go as he tried to get the throttle down, and in the end, catching the car just in time will be upset the rhythm of a lot of drivers. And this is how Lucas Romano started his move. In return around the outside of Chris Rance, with Marcel Fritsch taking a little bit of cheeky peek there at the inside, but Romano committed to this, and Rance defending, and will stay with this on the replay for the time as they make their way into turn number 2, and Romano fully committed to the move through turn 2 into 3, but giving Rance some space to play with as they made their way out of 3, and that's where the move was made by Romano. Beautiful racing between them as we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do, well, things are settling down to a degree in amongst the field as we see Glenn Humberstone going around the outside here, attempts on Craig Schill. The two ATEC Tech drivers here make their way through the left-hander side by side into turn number 8, enjoying a little battle here. We know how the drivers at ATEC Tech do love to have a little battles between one another, and as they make their way up towards turn number 9, through the right-hander he goes, and Humberstone not able to find his way on through. But looking for towards the back of the field, in fact he will find his way through in the end as Craig Schill runs wide there at turn number 9, carrying too much speed into the corner, and as he does, meanwhile we look back to the front of the field, and here is Thomas Gope after what is 4 laps of race. He's on lap number 5 now, albeit it's a timed race, but we'll keep an eye on the lap counter for you, as we do know some of you prefer to keep track of laps rather than time. And as Gope makes his way down through turn number 3 and into 4, we can see now started to open up a bit of a gap on Hammer to 8 tenths. But again, this gap is meaningless right now, and that's not to begrudge or to act as a slight against Gope, but really when you see an 8 tenths per second gap with these guys in a 45-minute race, that could mean anything. It could mean that Gope is a little bit faster at this point in the race. It could mean that Hammer is just backing off and saving the tyres. It could mean they're both running on a pretty much equal pace at the moment, and indeed it will come towards the end of the race where we reckon, unless there's a mistake for Gope early on, that's where we'll see Hammer try and make the charge and come back at Gope, unless alternatively Hammer's tyres give way midway through the race and Gope's able to last a little bit longer. That could always be an eventuality, of course, in the fact that we do know all of these drivers really do work hard on protecting the tyres, and we saw at Road Atlanta in particular in round number 2, that is where Gope was able to preserve the tyres so well in the feature race, and he had so much pace in the late stages compared to the rest of the field. As they make their way through turn number 10 up towards 11, drivers rolling off the apex there and in towards the double right of 11 and 12. You can see right now the top 5 really breaking away from the field with Daniel Century in P6, and they're right now pushing hard to try and close back up to the top 5. He wants to be in the battle, he wants to be there chasing after the podium places, but he's got quite a bit of work to do as the Olympus eSports Titan driver if he wants to make this happen towards the end of the race. As he makes his way on to another lap just behind Lars Witzig and Ben Peterson here close together as we ride on board and look back from the rear on the Leaf eSports machine, and you can see there the Blackout Motorsport machine of Peterson, which definitely has had one of the strongest starts here today in the gold class, inside the top 10 or just outside of it, cutting his way into the top 10, and right now eager to make further progress. And this is very different from the Ben Peterson we saw earlier on in the season where things just were not working out, and now it really is. I think it's going to be for Peterson an opportunity to pick up the places where in the absence of Sprout, you normally would see Sprout and Lazarus right up the front, but Peterson is showing he's also got what it takes here to be back inside the top 10. Spencer goes a little bit deep, and this is going to lead to a side-by-side out the corner, or is it? In fact, no, Peterson will tuck in behind. He's within 2 tenths, he's in the toe here, and he could think about a move on the inside in to dry stack hairpin as they make the way to the anchors to turn number 6, but in the end, Spencer holding the place comfortably there, and as they make their way through the right-hander, it is going to be Peterson who just has to wait a bit longer, and I think right now he's thinking about the move with Peterson, but he's also thinking about, is it really worth trying to force a move on here, given the fact they've got 2.5 seconds to Nathan Foster behind, and the Empire Motorsport pairing of Foster and Newman, with Newman just behind him, and in return they are gradually making some ground on Sedgley, who is 2.5 seconds up the road from them respectively. But as they make their way out to the corner, will Peterson here get closer and closer as they make their way out. We ride on board here with the Australian driver in the 881 as he comes through the right-hander 11. You notice that I'm turning a lot earlier. Vincent goes a bit deep, runs wide. Peterson has to back off here. He has to lift, but this is going to be an opportunity. He looks up the inside of the braking. He goes all in on the brakes. Meanwhile, Vincent's going to try and hold it around the outside, give him some more track room. But Peterson says no, one lot, and he goes for it there. And then Peterson takes P7 now to defend in the round towards turn number 1. He covers the inside, opens the door slightly there. Vincent tries to peek his nose, and Peterson brings the door to a shut once again. And as they come into the apex, well, this is the corner where all went wrong for James Parker. There's contact between Vincent and Peterson. They both stop the cars. Empire Motorsports, Joey Newman comes into the scene at the instant. All 3 drivers there to explosive places as a result, as they now make their way back up to speed, but the biggest loser of all that contact will be Newman as a result, as they make their way down for turn number 3, and meanwhile Emil Koemans trying to find his way up the inside of Peterson, can't quite find it, and now it's going to be Koemans here who finds Ryan Walker right behind him, as they head up towards turn number 5. Well, things will calm down for a brief moment, but I think it's going to be galvanising for Koemans and Walker to see they can potentially gain places, and Dean Powell, who's gained 6 places, he is the biggest gainer in the gold class. Well, this has gone under the radar, but it won't for much longer. The privateer is up into P8 from P14 in the gold class, having a dismal qualifying session, but right now the 24 driver absolutely enjoying the race. As they make their way out towards turn number 7 here, well, Powell's got a long train of cars behind him. Joe Newman has effectively been released at the cost of his teammate from Empire Motorsport, who had it all go wrong for him, Nathan Foster. If Newman could break away from this, he may just be able to consolidate that piece and go hunting elsewhere. But Peterson looking around the outside here, it's turn number 9. It's a bit tricky place to go for the move, but he cuts it back on quarter exit. Powell goes a bit deep. Peterson on the inside into 10. Side by side they go in, but Powell is going to be run out of road. As there's a bit of contact, Koemans goes round there, I think of his own volition, and as Powell rejoins, he's going to lose multiple places. Up the inside goes Kenny Ramadan as well. He just squeezed his way into turn number 11. That was risky for the Somalian driver, but he just about got himself in there for some sport as they make their way down towards turn number 13. And James Parker continuing this recovery drive after what's been a difficult start to the day after it all went wrong at turn number 1. He's already back up to P11 overall in the gold class, and now trying to make even further progress as we show you the class standings on the left hand side of your picture. Now as the drivers make their way on around it, you definitely can tell in terms of the fact we are starting to see the gold try to split themselves away from the silver class field, in the fact that the majority of the silver class drivers are behind the gold 18 drivers, and as we do look here to the mid portion of the gold pack, making their way down through turn number 4 in the battles inside the top 10. We then look a bit further down the road to the silver battles here, including Sean Dobie versus Craig Shield, as the Clicks Racing driver trying to make a move for P11 in the silver class versus Sean, the ATEC Tech driver on the outside there. Dobie switches it back to the inside. This could be a smooth move for the Scottish driver as he comes into the brakes. It's going to be a late apex there for what will be Shield in terms of his relative apex that he can make, and Dobie takes the move, does it out the inside, and that is done and dusted. A nice move there from the 159 driver as he comes out of turn number 2. A bit of power oversteer there, and to get the car to point in the straight line, but just about settles it down, and now carries on his way as he makes his way through turn number 4 and up towards 5. As they head for the right-hander very shortly, I think right now Dobie will feel as though he can go hunting after Lapwell, as meanwhile Alex Hiscox has been involved in another spin as we're to understand it. What was turn number 6, he's gone around again, and we'll have to try and find out what exactly happened there if we can get a replay. But meanwhile, we look for the silver class, to the gold class here. Battle for P3 commences, and it is Danny Lee versus Patrick Thompson, and what we can tell you that it was Lee who was trying to make the move initially on Thompson, but now Thompson's come back at him as they make their way up the hill. But Danny Lee is really feeling fighty today, and to be fair credit to him, if he feels as though he's got it with all the pace that's coming on through. But remember, it is a long race. We're only coming towards the end of the first third of this race. We've got a long way to go, and therefore time management is going to be so pivotal as this race wears on. And Corey Lazarus tucks in behind there, watching eagerly here as we jump on board with the Blackout Motorsport driver from New Zealand as he comes through the left into the right at turns 4 and 5. Now Lee coming off the inside there. I think that's as much a fight to try and get Thompson to miss his braking point as it is Lee saying to Lazarus, look, there's no space for you here. But Lazarus right now in the double dirty and runs wide, almost loses the car there, has to catch it. We're at Fishtails as well off the road, and as he makes his way up towards turn number 6, we can see Lee very focused on
struggling
up front, but also wary that Lazarus right now is starting to bear his fangs and is looking to bite into that battle for P3 as they make their way into turn number 7. Now on the left-hander, Lazarus going for the short shift. They're running the wipers there in order to clean the windshield of any dirt that's been picked up. And as they come through turn number 8, went 3 tenths from car to car here, nothing in it as they make their way onto the brakes of turn number 9. But well, who's going to be the first one to flinch or make a mistake? I think Lee here is going to definitely be pushing the wick as much as he can. But Lazarus is focused on making those early apexes to offset the double dirty air that he's got over the front end of the car. And as they come for 11 and 12, Lazarus there just a little bit tired of the front end. You can just see that the car not wanting to to turn in, so just deciding to let it go, taking a bit more of a general approach. Lee goes deep, however, and this is where Lazarus could go for the move as Lee tries to get the power down in haste, putting even more oversteer onto the back of the car, and as the tank slapper calms down, they charge them out towards turn number 1. Lazarus gets ahead, Lee's going to be right in the toe there. It's 1.5 tenths between them. Lee thinks about it, decides against it, and Corey Lazarus takes P4. Thompson's given the breather to 9 tenths, but will it be long before we see Lazarus putting the pressure onto Thompson? Or will Lazarus and Lee start battling for P4 and let the Olympus eSports driver run off into the distance? Once they come down for turn number 3, we'll have to wait and see, but as they head on through 4 and out towards 5. Meanwhile, in the silver class, we can tell you that DDD Verlaming and Wayne Baston are battling for position here. They're battling for P6, and it's nose to tail for them as they make their way up towards turn number 1. They go on to their 10th lap under race conditions as they make their way into the second third of this race, and now the race begins to evolve in a bit more of a challenging manner for our drivers. In the fact, we are now 16 minutes in, and this is the critical point where drivers have to start thinking about that tyre preservation. Really, they should be doing it around the 10-minute mark, if not sooner. But now, anyone who's been pushing hard early on really has to turn things down to give themselves tyre life towards the end of the race. Conversely, those who have not been pushing, we might start to see gain some further ground, and this is where we could start to see further developments in battles such as Coke versus Hammer for the lead of the gold class, and we can also see potentially some development for the battle for, say, P3 in the silver class between Chris Ross and Adam Greason, which is 1.2 seconds between the two of them currently, but that's where time is going to be a factor now, and where tyre degradation will be so key. And as Steve Blaming parks it on the brakes here, going into turn number 6, with Basson right now feeling the pressure, but not feeling pressure to defend, as we look from them up to Joe Newman, and well, Joe Newman P7 in the gold class here, and this is a bit of an interesting one, the fact that Ben Peterson has caught up to Newman very quickly, in fact, and Newman under huge pressure here as they come down into turn 13. They made their way through the left-hander, and Peterson definitely right now, I'm not sure what he's had for breakfast this morning, given how early in the day it's going to be in Australia for Peterson. But I can tell you one thing, he is absolutely flying right now, and he's putting the pressure on Newman. But the thing about Newman is, he doesn't normally feel the pressure. He's one of the most consistent drivers out there as the Empire Motorsport driver. He may not be the fastest, but as they make their way into turn number 2, he'll definitely be one of the most reliable when it comes to holding on to that place, at least in the minds of his team. He definitely will be, and well, we can attest to that as he comes down through turns 3 and 4. As he goes through the double left, we do say hello to Chris the King in the YouTube chat there, who's enjoying the broadcast. Great to see you spamming the hearts there, Chris, and well, all the pleasure to have you with us. But as they come for turn number 5, Peterson looks up the inside of Newman, and well, was there contact between the two of them? My gut feeling says there may have been some contact, but it looks though there Peterson really trying to look for a move that was not necessarily there. I think relying on Newman opening the steering wheel up a little bit further, but he has got the car back together. That's only from one camera angle, so we'll reserve judgment, and we may be able to get a replay of that very shortly. In fact, we do have a replay, and here it is, and we ride on board Ben Peterson here, who went for the move, and there was not contact. Peterson coming in a bit too hot for the rear of the car, and you can see they're just having to catch the car as the rear end lifted, and it was the downshift. You may have heard the downshift from 4th to 3rd, and that's what set the rear of the car off. It lifted the engine up even higher, and that's what caused it all to come loose under braking. But as we return to live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, Peterson definitely eager to make moves, but being a bit too eager there, and well, it was a near miss of the pair of them as he makes his way back up to speed now, and as he heads through turns 12 and 13. We know Peterson's very fast here, he just needs the time in order to make those places count one by one. Then he goes through the left-hander, return at number 13. Meanwhile, we do look a bit further back to Paul Joseph Clift here in the battle for P8 in the silver class. He's looking for a move versus Cameron Smith as we do switch back to the overall standings for a time. And as they make the way on through at turn number 10.
Just heads up.
Right now, Cliff trying to make some further ground. He has gained 3 places in the class. It starts today a difficult qualifying session for the 92. But as he comes out of 12 and into 13, Smith, by comparison, also gained some places. Two of the biggest gainers in the silver class.
My tires are completely gone, like fully gone.
Places gained, and as they come on through turn number 13, right now, Paul Joseph Cliff falling back a little bit further. In fact, a second away now.
18.
I think it might be a battle that's just going to go on a brief hiatus as they head on to lap number 12 for themselves. But as they do, we look from them back up to Lars Letzig, as we do see here the number 62 driver from Germany on his debut. The lead eSports here today in the UKSR Porsche Cup Season 7. On to the race they all go. Peterson comes roaring up the inside like a rocket there, and Vincic does see it coming and decides to let it go there. I think conscious of the fact that Peterson definitely feels as though he's in a bit of a different class right now compared to this group, and wants to get the moves done, and well, we would agree with him there, but now he's going to have a bigger test in front of him in the form of James Parker, and we know the AI race, some of his DCW racing driver.
I can't, man. This car, it either doesn't turn or it like wants to spin on me. I'm a goner soon.
Well, Parker, that early mistake cost himself very dear, and now having to try and regain all the time he's lost as the time trickles on here. Here it is as he goes in towards turn number 11. As Walker leads this group around, leading what is essentially the quintuplet of cars around. In fact, we're going to be making that sextuplet very shortly. With the fact we also do have what is Dean Powell catch up to Khalid Ramadan. Peterson looking around the outside there versus Parker, but no way through. And Ramadan, he's managed to find his way into this P12 position. And as they head up towards turn at number 1, Powell right now closing onto the back of it all. He's got a car going slowly there in the rear of the pitch. I think, in fact, that is Jeremy DeBova, who's just backed off slightly coming out the final corner to let Nathan Foster, the gold driver, take overall P15. Remember, Jeremy DeBova is the leader of the silver class, so therefore he won't want to battle with the gold class drivers. All he'll want to do is hold on to lead of the silver class, and well, it's good timing as well in the fact that Chris Edison right now, P2 silver, he's got Chris Rance behind him as they make their way down through turn number 3, and as we ride on board and look back here from the rear of the AAA car for UKSR Racing Admin, where right now it's Edison under increasing pressure, and Rance all over the back of him looking for that potential move. As they make their way into turn number 5, Edison on a compromised line now to take a tighter line, and you notice that Rance able now to take a much more gentle flow off the apex. He stays with the temper as they make their way on down. Edison's going to defend to the middle of the road. It's going to lead to Rance looking around the outside. Rance goes all on the brakes. Edison brakes a little bit earlier to defend the inside line and not lose run of the track. And as they make their way through turn number 6, Edison defends well there. Rance looking all the way around the outside, but can't seem to find a way to make it stick. And right now Edison holding on to P2 in the silver class, but this battle is not going away as Rance getting very close then to turn 8. Looks for the cutback. Marcel Fritsch, the gold driver, who's P19 overall, P16 in gold class, also wants to get involved here as Rance goes a bit deep on the extension of the apex to turn 8. And I think there he was trying to go for a cutback, but miscalculated how much speed he needs for the cutback run off the corner, and therefore Edison now slightly safe as Rance continues to get back in the toe once again. We're through the fast flying double right here at turns 11 and 12, and Rance goes wide onto the gravel, and that's going to cost him further time as they head up towards turn number 13, and Edison will feel safe at least for this corner and going up towards turn number 1. As they come through the left hand, and we still do have all 33 starters in this race. And well, Mark Oliver, the only driver who is a lap down at the moment after that unfortunate incident at the start, which we haven't been able to bring you a replay. We do apologise for that. But meanwhile, Rance versus Edison stays straight and firmly in our screen. As we can see here, they're making their way through turn number 1, and as they head up towards turn 2, onto the brakes they go once again, and Rance continues to mount that pressure, breathing down Edison's neck, and I can only imagine how uncomfortable it is for Edison right now as they head through the left-hander at turn number 4. But Rance, to be fair, also having to deal with his own difficulties in the fact by running this close to the back of another car, he is overheating the front tyres with the dirty air, the warm air that's wafting off the back of the 992 in front of him, and therefore he's going to be really having to work those tyres to stay this close. He'll feel as though he can get the move done sooner rather than later, but I wonder if he takes too long whether he'll back off. Well, he's not backing off here as he looks up the inside under braking into 6. Can't quite find it as it out brakes into the apex, and as they clear the corner, we're right on board here with Rance, who's trying everything in the proverbial overtaking textbook in terms of trying to look for the move. He goes through 7 there, a very aggressive line. He looks up the inside, and Rance really trying to tease out a move there, trying to just get his nose in there to make Edison think he's going to go all the way down the inside. But Edison showing his veteran nature and not falling for it. Rance cutting back slightly as Edison goes very deep, but Rance follows him in the dirty air. And as they make their way through 10, they are stumbling over one another here. They're both pushing hard, but this is costing them both time. And right now, DeBova is 6 seconds up the road since their battling has started, as they both run wide down turn 11 into 12. With their battling, it has cost them 3 seconds to DeBova, who is just running away with the lead of the silver class. But as they come down into turn 13, and we haven't a change of position further up the order, we've had Muncie move up to P10 from James Parker. And well, as we do see here, the battle for P2 in the silver class made its way onto another lap. We do now look up to Lars Muncie, as we do see the German driver for Lever eSports. He's still ahead of Parker, making his way down from turn 3 into 4. And as he comes through, we take a look back at how the move was made. Well, they made the way through turn 13, you see Parker, they're going very deep, and Blitzing then having to go for a drag race on the exit, and this will be a demonstration of the straight line speed difference between the two of them in terms of the fact Parker having to regroup the car. Blitzing going around the outside, and Parker thinking about it, but deciding to back out in the end. There's more places to be gained later on in this race, but meanwhile there's Ben Peterson as we return to your live pictures, looking up the inside and taking P8 in the gold class, and overall off of Ryan Walker. A straightforward move there. I think Walker, knowing that Peterson is the faster driver, and therefore by not battling with him, you would expect that Peterson will pull them up to Joe Newman, who is 4.5 seconds up the road from them as they make the way out through turn number 8 lead towards 9 as they come into the first of the double right-hand complex here. Things are still ever close between this group of gold drivers, with Parker ahead of Kelly Ramadan in the battle for P11, Dean Pound just behind as well, and you can also see Emil Koopmans and Nathan Foster, they're all grouping together, and Nathan Foster now starting to get a bit racy here as he comes through turn at number 11 in the back. He did lose out massively in that charge of P7 after the incident, which did see Peterson and one other driver come together. Their name escapes me right now. I think it was Blitzing, in fact, when they came together, and Foster just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time to also get involved in an incident at turn at number 1. But right now trying to regroup and charge his way back up into the gold top 10. He's got some way to go if he wants to achieve that here today. As they make the way on to lap number 16. Meanwhile, we look back to the very front of the field. This is Cope and Hammer, who are currently 6 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Cope does have a 7.5 tenths advantage over Hammer, but the point being here, you can see in the rear of the picture the gap they have opened up as Thompson here in P3 under pressure from Corey Lazarus. Lazarus in the toe there, looking for the move on the brakes into the hairpin. They go into turn 6 side by side, and will they exit side by side? Well, Lazarus will want the place completely. Thompson being run almost off a road there, but given the space to come back, and as the Danishman looks on the inside to turn 7, he has to back off, and Corey Lazarus there in a firm but fair move takes P3 in the gold class and overall, as meanwhile Thompson has now got Danny Lee right behind him, and Lee will be thinking, okay, well if Lazarus can do it, I can do it too, as they come through the right-hander at turn number 9. But the thing is here, I can tell you one thing, Blackout Motorsport, we needed proof of just how much pace they've got at their fingertips, and they're right to be on the podium. We are seeing it from both of their drivers here today, and well, right now Patrick Thompson, who definitely showed a lot of pace in qualifying, seems to be in a bit of a back foot here inside the top 5, with Danny Lee also looking very fast and now trying to look for the move in return. But as they come into turn number 13, he's going to go slightly deep there, but as they exit the corner, it's all going to come back together for the trio, and we look from them to Nathan Foster. With Foster still trying to find a way. Last time with Koopmans, he had a shot on the move only moments ago, but Koopmans was able to stay one step ahead, and as they come down towards turn at number 13 now on the break, nothing between us. We've got a lock up there for Powell just up the road in front of them, but as they exit the left-hander, well, it is going to be Koopmans who steers clear as they head up towards turn at number 1. As they charge their way across the timeline and once again on to lap number 17. Meanwhile, we look a bit further down the order to the battle for P6 in the silver class between Wayne Basson and Diddy Blaming, as we can see they're battling for P24 overall, and Basson right now I think just holding firm here. Blaming may have a little bit more pace under his fingertips, but Basson is one of those drivers who can make that car incredibly wide for FR20 sim racing when he needs to, and as they exit turn 13, it's 3 tenths between them. With the toe, they're going in the favour of Blaming, and therefore enabling him to get closer. In fact, he's getting very close indeed. I wonder whether there's a bit less rear wing on the DBR Bowman Challenge machine, because he has gained an entire tenth in the run on the straightaway there, and if they're running the identical rear wing, he wouldn't have gained as much necessarily. But either way, as they head into turn at number 2, it definitely looks as though here Blaming is in for the long haul in terms of battling, as he runs all over the back here of Wayne Basson, and we ride on board with the Challenger as they make their way through turn number 4. Into 5, tyres absolutely sliding about here as they are showing signs of wear. And as they come into turn 5, Blaming goes very deep. They look to the cutback. Meanwhile, Basson's going to go deep into the corner, but Blaming has to fight with some power oversteer there in order to get the car to go to the apex. That's going to give Basson all the time in the world to feel safe as they head down towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go. No change right now. Blaming very close. He could almost reach out and touch the rear wing of Basson's car, but they're here to pick up a hefty fine if this was the FIA. And once they make the way through turn in towards 8, it's going to be now about just literally hugging the rear of his rival and trying to get them moving to turn 1 next time around. And as Basson makes a mistake, alternatively Blaming can go for a cutback assault through turn number 9. He thinks them out here as Basson does go a little bit extended on the apex. Meanwhile, Blaming goes deep himself, and again that dirty air just carrying the front end of the car away from its steering influence, and it does mean that right now he has to settle to stay behind. But as they exit turn number 11 and up towards 12, with a little bit of run wide there as well for equal measure. We look from them back up to the battle to beat P10 overwhelming the gold class, and this is Brian Walker. He holds on to the coveted position right now as he has got a long pack of cars behind him, and he runs wide. Out turn number 4, catches the car before it goes wayward, and well, that's going to be James Parker around the outside, and Parker does not need an invitation to take a place off him, but he will take that as they make the way up towards turn number 6 now. But as they exit the corner, you can see they're just behind Dean Powell under increasing pressure as well from Emil Cummins and Nathan Foster. But meanwhile, it's going to be Khalid Ramadan who thinks about the move. He can't quite find it. Emil Cummins also looks to the move here, but it's also to cover off Foster, who's trying to go around the outside of him into turn number 6. Can't quite find the move. It's getting very feisty indeed outside of the top 10 in the gold class here. And long may it continue as they make their way up towards turn number 8. And all of these drivers right now itching for a sparring fight as they make their way in towards turn number 9 and all looking for further places. Meanwhile, speaking of places and battles for higher positions in the battle for P2 in the silver class, here it is still. It is still Edisford ahead of Rance as they come out of turn number 8 and in tonight. And Edisford once again under intolerable pressure as they make over the right-hander, and it's going to be Rance up the inside there with a cutback as Edison goes slightly deep. Now Edison tries to do exactly the same to Rance. He will have this in the run to turn 11. Surely he's going to be on the inside, and Rance will have to back out. They go side by side through the fast right-hander. Rance goes to the gravel, and Edison retakes P2, literally dished out a bit of medicine just served to him. Brilliant racing action between the two of them there, and well, they might be letting Taboa run away with this, but right now, in their minds, I think they're battling for the win of this race, albeit they're effectively battling for P2. They all feel like a victory when this is all said and done, and as they make their way up the hill towards what is turn number 1 once again, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, with all the racing action still to go and what you've seen so far, we do have the driver of the day vote now open, and you can vote for your driver of the day using the link in the YouTube chat. It's a simple Google form. Do make sure to vote. Votes will close as of midnight tonight, and let us know who's been your driver of the day. And we'll last time out, the driver of the day was Daniel Sedgwick with 60% of the vote, and will it be him again or another driver? You decide, and we will keep that vote open to midnight tonight. But as we look to the racing action between Edison and Rance, with a great battling between them, it is enabling Adam Creevson to close up, and well, now that is going to raise a question mark for Edison in terms of how much more does he battle this? Can he try and fight Rance, force Rance back towards Creevson, as Rance going to look around the outside here into turn 6 behind in the rear of the picture. That's a run around the outside for Lee Deemer, who literally is overpassed by Lucas Romano. But as we look back from them to what is Edison versus Rance, Edison still stays ahead despite Rance getting ahead under braking into the hairpin, but on the outside line it's very difficult to pull off. But as they go through the left hand and turn it number 8 towards 9, well, right now you can imagine that Greaveson's rubbing his hands together, or he'll keep them both on the steering wheel, but in his head he'll be rubbing together and thinking, how can I pick them both off as they make the way through turn number 10. Because Rance and Edison right now have really made this a grudge match in terms of just battling back and forth, and everybody around them, I don't think they're quite aware of the fact that Greavson is getting ready to take the place of both of them. But whilst this is playing out, and meanwhile they make their way up towards turn number 13, we've also had a back and forth here between Patrick Thompson and Danny Lee in the battle for P4 in the gold class. These two have been exchanging the place back and forth, and well, here's a replay from only moments ago when it almost exchanged places into turn 1. You can see Lee looking around the outside here under braking. This was 2 laps back, and as they headed into the right hander, and then it was Thompson who defended well. Lee trying to switch back to the inside, goes all the way, but then thinks better of it, and that's how Thompson was able to hold on. But to return to live pictures, Thompson goes deep at turn 6, and Danny Lee takes P4. More the timing there could not have been more critical in terms of us return to live pictures to see that unfold. But Danny Lee right now making the move count, and indeed Patrick Thompson there with a rare error, but that's where the time degradation is going to start to really pick up. And now this is where we enter the phase of the race where drivers have been pushing hard early on, as we've seen Dean Powell fending off Nathan Foster there on the inside into turn number 6, and out of it, those who have been pushing hard earlier on in the race may start to lose places in the fact they just haven't got the tyres left to race anymore. And as they make the way on around here on lap number 20, I think we are starting to see some drivers are really feeling the pinch of tyre life, and Dean Powell being no exception as he continues to try and keep what is there Foster and Koopmans behind. And keep in mind as well, this is a bit of an interesting one. We have Jeremy DeVoe, the silver class leader, now on the back of this battle, and I wonder with his 11-second advantage over Chris Edison whether he'll feel he's safe with 10 minutes to go. Should these guys battle continue to rip lap time out of one another, whether he'll feel safe not to be called.
Oh my god, that's so close.
But between Wins Foster and Powell, as Foster comes to the pit on the inside, locks up the brakes, and will in the end, for the Empire Motorsport driver, it's all gone wrong, as Nathan Foster has had to be towed to the pits due to damage picked up, and I think that is a premature retirement as well, as a result of that contact. But Powell right now, a car that's slightly damaged, will be trying to keep Emil Coombs at bay, and that may calm down the battling for the remainder of the day here in the battle for P13 in the gold class, and overall it's unlucky for some. But still, you can imagine that with regards to number 13, Powell's making his own today as he makes his way on around through turn number 4. But as they head up towards turn 5, and meanwhile we do give you an update on those weather conditions, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see track temperature now has dropped to 43 degrees centigrade, so it is a slightly cooler track compared to when we started at 48 degrees going into the race session. But at the same time as well, this is still a circuit where the tyres are going to be blisteringly hot, and I don't say that with a pun intended, but if they do push the tyres too hard, they may end up blistering them and therefore losing the life of the tyre considerably, and nobody wants to see the tyre completely go away by the end of today. But this weather right now absolutely unrelenting in terms of the Spanish sun, and well, as we do look here from Dean Powell back up to Danny Lee, he may have got ahead of Patrick Thompson, only moments to go, but Thompson trying to come back in now as they make their way through turn number 13, and as they come through the left hand, we can tell you that Dean Powell has just had an off camera as we looked away, and therefore he has released Emil Coombs and also Jeremy DeBoer on through, albeit I believe Jeremy DeBoer has actually found his way past Emil Coombs as well as past that chain of events. And as we look to the class standings here on the left hand side of your screen, it is going to be 10 minutes remaining. A close fight here for P4, the best of rest outside the podium place in the gold class between Lee and Patrick Thompson, as Thompson right now continues to stay right behind him as they make their way up through the left-hand of turn number 4. From their battle, we do also have a very close battle still growing for P2 in the silver class. In fact, it's P2 3 to P4 with Edisford, Brant and Greason all together. That's Lucas Romano at the back of the quartet on pitch. He's the gold class driver in P15 in class, and his next target is Dean Powell, who is up the road ahead of the 3 silver drivers here. Right now, that is a gap effective 8 seconds for Romano through to Powell, and that might be as far as Romano goes today in terms of his drive from the back of the field. But we've also got an update, ladies and gentlemen. We do have 3 retirees from this race confirmed. We'll win the silver class. We've had our most recent one of Craig Schill. We also have Mark Oliver and also Stephen Lathwell earlier on in the race. Unfortunately, we are down to 30 cars running on circuit currently with Cameron Swift in the pit lane, and the car is being repaired after some damage picked up, so we'll have to wait to see if they are able to get that car back out on the circuit or whether it will be another retirement. Here we have Rance, who has the better run out of turn 5 versus Edisford, and as they make their way down to 6 this time, well, Rance has been here before. He's tried to make the move, and Edisford has just simply defended on the outside and made Rance have to go the long way round. And the CS Racing UK driver once again thwarted there. I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to get Edisford to outbrake himself into the corner and just go straight on, but it's just simply that Edisford right now is not faltering in his defence as they make the way through turn number 8 and up towards 9 they go, and Rance is knocking on the door left, right and centre as we ride on board the rear here of Edisford's car. You can see they're having a fight with the steering slightly, Edisford, as he misses the apex of turn 9, but thankfully for him, Rance and Greason also do the same, and as they make their way up towards turns 11 and 12 here, double right coming up, and you can see Rance getting so close on turning, but he's carrying more speed. He's also at risk of running onto the gravel as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 13, where Emil Coombs into the pit lane. I wonder if that is potentially a repair welcome car and drive-through penalty, but either way, Rance goes deep, and it's going to be Greason that looks up the inside. It's going to be a side-by-side dash up towards turn number 1, and well, has Greason got enough speed here, or has Rance got this covered? Well, Rance will come across to the racing line. Greason switches back to the inside. He goes all in the brakes. Rance turns in, but he's got the FR20 sim racing car there, and as they give one another the space, Rance gets the power down and keeps Greason at bay. Greason will mine the lock-up, but it doesn't end in tears. Instead, it ends up with Rance holding to P3, and as they make their way up towards turn number 4 now, well, Chris Rance definitely feeling the pressure just as much as Edisford is, with the fact that one mistake and it's brought Greason right back into this battle. But as they head up towards turn number 5 now, we'll stay with this battle for the time being, ladies and gentlemen, as this is the closest battle on circuit. If we do see some other battles start to grow, we will look to those as well. But as they make their way on down towards turn number 6, well, right now I think it's more Greason trying to make the move versus Rance rather than Rance and Edisford. As you can see, Greason I think now has the tyre advantage, and that is only going to help him more and more as they make the way up towards turn number 7. As they go through left-hander. Lucas Romano still watching this with eager eyes and thinking that he can potentially gain some more overall places. Producer will be hoping that Romano just stays there. The DBR driver has other ideas as he looks potentially for the move here into turn number 10. And well, we are hearing that Foster and Coombs both in the pit lane as we see Greason go wide at turn number 9. And in doing so, Adam Greason drops by Lucas Romano and drops out of this battle. And it buys Chris France a bit of breathing room. And Edison right now may be thinking Don in the fact that now he's got to worry about Rance coming right after him all the way through to the end. With 5 minutes to go here, time trickles down, ladies and gentlemen. Still plenty of racing to come, and well, whilst there is a bit of a breather, we do look to the front of the field, and this is Thomas Cope, your race leader for Olympus eSports Vanguard, who continues to charge on here, and well, holding an advantage of 1.7 seconds over Philip Hammer. And I think the advantage in terms of tyre life and lap time is just gradually going the way of Cope, albeit I say that on the last lap Hammer was a 10th faster, so I think Cope and Hammer exchanging lap times, but the key point being here that Cope is really working to a logic of whatever lap you can do, Philip, I can do it too, and that's a very strong place to be in if you can do that as this race winds down, in the fact that Hammer will have to push more and more in order to try
that guy you're approaching there might hold you up a little bit.
Push harder and harder, particularly towards the end of the race when the car's not in its ideal condition. There's a lot less fuel in the car as well, so it's a very lightweight car on tyres that have seen much better days. It means that the mistake threshold becomes much easier to reach, and while Hammer doesn't make mistakes, he won't want to make any, but he also wants to take the win. But the question is the P2 more valuable today, or does he want to try and hunt down that win? And I suspect he may be starting to thinking about settling for that P2 here, given the fact it'll be his best result of the season outside of the win at last time out at VIR, and it'll match the second place that we saw him achieve in was the feature of VIR, and therefore it'll be some huge points in his bank account, and therefore he will move into P2 going into the next pair of rounds in a week's time. But as he makes his way down through turn number 3 into 4, we look back to the battle for P2 here in the silver class, and once again it passes the battle for P15 overall. It means so much more to the pair, as we are hearing that both Nathan Foster and Emil Coombs have had to be retired. But meanwhile, Edison there is a slow run through turn number 11 into 12, and Rance goes up the inside immediately, and well, for Chris Edisford it falters at the final stages there with only a couple of laps to go. And let's take a look back at that in terms of what exactly happened there to Chris Edisford, in the fact it just looks like the car gave up. Once he made his way into the corner, Edison carrying speed through, runs a bit wide, and there it just looks like the front end had no grip to offer anymore, and for Edison, as much as he tried, Rance in nailing the corner and waiting for a mistake to come, and only one mistake was needed for Rance to take that P2 in the silver class. As they make their way up towards turn number 4 there, and almost towards 5 very shortly. We do say hello to Simon B, who has been cheering on a number of drivers, including Chris Edisford, all the way up through today. We've only just seen you there in the chat. Apologies, Simon. But as we do see Lucas Romano tucked in behind Chris Edisford now, and I think Edisford may be thinking about letting Romano go, with Greason being at 1.9 seconds behind and not really a threat at this point. We do have a crime battle here.
I just need to survive this shit.
Golden overall top 10. It's James Parker versus Wes Kelly Ramadan, and Ramadan is getting closer and closer as they make their way through turn number 9 to 10 here. Through the double right they go, and as they exit the corner where is a gap of 7 tenths as they head in towards what is the end of the lap, as Lucas Romano in fact had an off track and has had to be towed to the pit. We'll try and understand what exactly has happened there very shortly. And as the drive's coming down, it's all going wrong for some, as Ryan Walker's had an off track at turn number 12. You can see that Jeremy DeVova, your silver leader, creeping on through, so he's gained another overall position, but it won't mean anything in terms of his final finishing position in the silver class, which is the most important one. And then the closest battle we do have on circuit, in fact, with only a lap or 2 to go here, is Steve Hobbs looking for the move for P7 in the silver class versus DDD Blaming as they head on through the right-hander turn number 9. Lock up there for Blaming, and Hobbs will try and get the run into turn 10. It's going to be a close-knit run, but in the end Hobbs on too tight a line to really be able to force the door open further, and therefore has to wait to fight another corner as they make their way out to 10 in for 11 and 12.
I'm
faster than the race leaders.
I'll point away.
Last time out of VIR, Definitely
it's like
not the same result.
fresh tyres versus
plenty of rounds to go. He locks up there into turn 13. A lot of drivers now starting to make off tracks. Daniel Sedgley is off track in P6 in the gold class. Hasn't lost any places. Glenn Humberstone has gone off in P25 overall. And with that, I think the brakes and also the tyres are really now in their last place in terms of what's available capability-wise. But here we look back to your overall race leader.
Thank God.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we may see the race end here on that 26.
I only had my like third tire warning at this point.
Whether it be a white flag, it is a white flag just about with 2 seconds to go. We're on to a 27th and final lap here. And as Sakito de Jerez in Spain, and as Thomas Cope cross the line. Now this is also going to throw another conundrum in the works. I wonder if any teams have planned for a 26 lap race and Cope literally creeping across the line with 2 seconds to spare. That's as close as you want to call it. But now with a 2.2 second advantage over Team Germany's Philip Hammer, you would imagine that Cope can now start to turn the wick down slightly and just bring the car home. We could see some drivers have to do some late fuel saving in order to get themselves to that final checker flag. And if anybody has not banked on the fact there'll be a 27th and final lap here, well, it could be telling in short order. We may see some drivers sunny fall by the wayside right to the end. But meanwhile, as we do look to Chris Edisford here, he's all back over the rear of Chris Runton in the battle for P2 in the Silk class. They go on to one more lap, and that is Adam Greaveson who goes round out to the final corner. And Alex Hiscox takes P4 in the Silk class. He makes his way on through. And well, as Greaveson returns the car to the right direction of racing, the F120 Sim Racing driver avoids the wall, but he loses a place, and that's going to be a bruise there. That drops into P5 in the silver class. But Runton and Edisford here still nose to tail as they come through turns 2 and 3. And well, now the shoe is on the other proverbial foot, and it looks so Rons managing the pressure right now, but he's still got over half the lap to go here as this race comes towards its natural conclusion.
This is so fun watching Patrick.
Be able to hold on, that is the question, as they make their way through the right-hander at turn number 5. But meanwhile, we must look from them to the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen, because after making the move on Philip Hammer after the opening couple of corners, he's never looked back. And Thomas Cope winning ways after his holiday. He comes on through to take your checker flag.
Oh, thank God that's over.
Thomas Cope.
I'm just gonna piss off. I'm so angry. Good race. See you guys next time.
Ahead of Philip Hammer P2. It'll then be Corey Lazar.
Patrick. Good race, buddy.
By a further 7 seconds, Danny Lee comes on through for his best performance of the season. P4 in the gold class and overall ahead of Patrick Thompson P5. Daniel Sedgley at P6.
That was
and then it
boring.
will be a further 7 seconds to Joe Noble.
Lap 1, there was cars. Lap 2, there was none. That was it.
Ahead of Ben Peterson P8.
You run a bubble.
Debut at Believe eSports in the series takes P9 in a good drive there for the number 62 driver.
Okay.
Have any of you heard of NVIDIA broadcast?
And it'll be Jeremy DeBova who makes it another win
It's
for D
fucking
Moment
awful.
Challenge and a championship lead that only ever continues to go over the 14 driver.
It's the most
He takes a
aggressive
silver class
thing
win,
I've
best
ever
rest
used in my
P11
life.
overall, head of Ryan Walker, and it'll be Dean Powell P13.
Also,
the privateer
why
ahead
does
of
the
shortly
commentators
James
sound like
Parker,
they've
who
been
crosses the
inhaling
line.
helium?
It's then Chris Edisford who in a surprise turn.
I don't know.
takes second place in the silver class. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but it looks as though he's
I don't know. Apparently, there was a
and
problem.
Alex
I think,
Hiscox will recover to the
TC, I think
podium in the
you
silver
should hear
class.
AC
Maybe
running.
Ron out of fuel when the team Welsh
Yeah,
comes
but
on
it's
through
not,
there.
it's not going to affect the audio of the stream.
But he's definitely out of fuel.
Well,
He didn't have enough left. Adam Greason at P5.
Okay, I'm just saying. It was
it
was clipping.
Comes on through very
Yeah, it
shortly.
sounded like it was being played through the back of a
He's going to lose out to Steve Hobbs. He's Charles Basson at the line as
Hover
well.
van.
Or is it as they both seem to exchange places here? Perhaps this is for the championship that they've given Hobbs the opportunity.
No, I popped the original stream back up and it sounded okay. Or so.
Had a Sean Dobie P24 overall. Diddy Blaming P25.
I have on my phone because my power is flashed and the router's resetting. So I just wanted to come in and say, good job guys.
But goodness me,
I know he's mad. Did he just burn his tires out early?
Yeah, I think he's just
we'll take a look back at that very shortly, ladies and
being
gentlemen.
in the train
as
as
he
well.
makes his way towards the pit entry. Well, here is Thomas Cope, the Olympus eSports Vanguard. Your
He's still had a good race. Still finished 5th, right?
He leads the Olympus eSports formation on through.
Yeah.
And what I think
So right in front of Dan.
there'll be a grin on his face because he knows he's just proven the point, which is you may have got pole position today, Hammer, but I'm the one who's brought home the lion's share of the points in the race. And well, in the end, it took
a small error right at the start, and they put pressure on one another all the way from start
the
to
outside
finish.
would
Thomas Cope has found a way to take
it
victory once again.
Yeah,
and
had 20
seriously
donuts
wrong
on the
there.
start finish straight there and burning what.
No, I think that's just a pickup. I think you just run so much front camber that's what they always end up. We noticed that when we're doing what in the Nürburgring.
But here today, he had the pace in
You
qualifying.
could change tires. You have to change the fronts every time because they were almost dead.
I say
At
that
the end of an hour.
His way, albeit got a long way to go yet, but he'll feel as though something special is potentially happening this season already as he makes his way into the pit lane. And well, we're wondering about what exactly happened between Chris Edison and Chris France in the battle for P2.
You were horrific drifting.
Here is the ring.
Well, I mean, I did just do a bit of drifting.
Way through turn 5. This was literally after we left them to see Cope cross the line.
Nothing.
Drag race down towards turn number 6, and Rance got it wrong at turn 5. He went deep, and in fact, I think there having to let the place go. Perhaps he's looked at the fuel gauge and realised there's not enough fuel in that car in the end to get it to the end, and therefore he's had to settle for P3 when he's for the time, and then he's lost the place to Alex Hiscox literally in the run to the checker flag. But either way, a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure for Chris Rance, and well, with that, a dramatic end today for CS Sim Racing UK. But as we do return to your
God,
live,
were they
ladies and
bullying?
gentlemen, most of our drivers now in the pit lane. We now do take a look at those race results, subject to stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after a fast, frantic and absolutely dramatic race here at the Circuito de Jerez in Spain today, Thomas Cope brings home the win in the second endurance race round of the season, round number 8 of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup Season 7. That's the win overall and in the gold class for Olympus eSports Vanguard by 3.2 seconds.
I mean, I figure you can. You just got to have a couple of good races, right?
Who started on pole today.
I mean, how did your Road America race end up? I saw you were running like top 5
in the first couple of corners, but then when Cope was ahead, it was about just managing the race for Cope, and he seemed to be able to manage the race to the pace that Hammer was able to bring to bear, and in the end Cope just finding the edge when he needed to. P3 to Corey Lazarus, the Blackout Motorsport driver.
One more of those and that'll get you.
In there to take the podium, and with that, whilst he may have been 3.2 seconds off of the top 2, he'll still feel as though that's a win to be on the podium with the greats of the field, and indeed Corey Lazarus once again showing. And then these longer races, he really is a force to be reckoned with. Danny Lee picking up his best performance of the season, P4, the privateer. A whole second clear of Patrick Thompson, with the Olympus eSports Vanguard driver making a couple of small errors, which cost him it in the late stages. But still, it can't be denied the Dane giving it everything he could to take on Lee, but in the end having to settle for P5. Olympus eSports Titans, Daniel Sedgey at P6 there. Not quite on the pace of the top 5 today, but 9 of some good points in the bag, ahead of Joe Noon for Empire Motorsport, who with that P7 there, taking one of his best performances of the season, and finishing a second clear of Ben Peterson, the Blackout Motorsport driver from Australia, who was an absolute rocket today. It didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to. The pace he had, he could have gone for a top 5 finish, but still he'll build from today going into next round. And it'll be Lars Witzig at P9 there. The Leaf eSports driver had some great battles in the midfield of the gold class and getting some good points to start off his championship campaign. And Khalid Ramadan for P10 for Som Sport. And well, it wasn't quite.
Yes, it was a very hot race.
But still, Ramadan giving it everything he could and taking the top 10 finish.
Yeah, it was to keep the tire alive. It was the difficult point here.
Challenge, and what a drive from Jeremy DeBoer, not a fall to it, and indeed not under pressure at any point, just maintaining the gap and continuing to grow as a lap.
From my view, it was okay, but I drive not so fast like you, Thomas, but I have my worst tire was 47 cent.
And battled back to P14 overall for
my tire was
CCW Racing, but definitely a missed opportunity, and he will be aware of that more than most.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Eddersford at P15, that's second place in the silver class for UK Sim Racing admin team, and he'll feel as though it's finally coming his way, the potential results here after all the blood, sweat and tears that's gone in. He had to battle hard for it today, but he'll be pleased with that, ahead of Lee Deemer and the Fixed Auto Aberdare driver, not quite on the pace of the top 10 of the gold class, but still having a good shot of it nonetheless, ahead of Alex Hiscox, the silver third place driver, P17 overall, and the Team Wales driver there completing the silver podium of DeBoer, Eddersford and Hiscox. And again for Hiscox, much like what we saw for James Parker, an early instant cost him dear, but Alex Hiscox battling his way back through to the podium, and also taking the advantage of Chris Rance running out of fuel towards the very end of the race. Marcel Fritsch, Chris Rance and Adam Greason complete your top 20, with Adam Greason's unfortunate spin costing him dear when he could have been on form for a potential podium, particularly given the fact that Rance was to run out of fuel and therefore lose the podium by default. And then Steve Hobbs P21 behind his FR20 Sim Racing teammate, but ahead of his fellow teammate Wayne Basson there, and indeed the trio from FR20 Sim Racing knowing some key points have gone astray today. Glenn Humberstone P23, he just finished behind Basson at the finish line with Sean Doe P24 there and Didi Vlament P25 in a race where he wasn't quite on the pace today, struggled in qualifying, and that manifested further in the race for DVR Moment Challenge, but still ahead of Paul Joseph Cliss, who finished a lap down for Olympus eSports Titan, and Cameron Smith, the last of the finishers, 2 laps down there for the Privateer outfit in the number 23. We then come on to the retirees from today's race, of which we did have a grand total of 6 retirees, Lucas Romano being the first of them in the order, P28 by DBR, ahead of Emerald Coopmans for Apex Missers, and they'll both be classified as finishers as they did complete over half the race distance, with 27 laps being the total today. The same will go for Nathan Foster for Empire Motorsport, and also for Craig Shield P31 for 88 Tech, and Mark Oliver and Stephen Lathwell as well. They'll have finished the race effective as they completed over half the race distance. So we technically do have 33 finishers, albeit 6 of those being retirees, and the other 27 finishing on circuit. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our racing action here in Spain. But it doesn't conclude today's show. We'd just like to remind you, first and foremost, that you haven't already thought about voting for your driver of the day. You definitely do want to vote for your driver of the day, and do so using the link in the YouTube chat. We just reposted it once again, and do let us know who was your driver of the day here at the Saquito de Jerez. But also, very shortly, we've got our post-round interviews coming up, and we'll be hearing from 4 of our drivers up and down the grid in terms of their thoughts and how it went today. And we're back for those in approximately 10 to 15 minutes time. So don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them.